I'll turn on the light. Help me. Muted? Looks like you're muted.
So it's gonna be me and Boney. Boney's lights were turned off, so it's gonna be possible for him to probably he will join back fully in the I don't know why it suddenly like didn't show up, but either way. Anyway, so we're today with the FastPoint APAC monthly. Yes.
That's okay. You're muted.
No, I'm not muted. No, all good. That was old news. Old news.
You
That
gotta
is old
see.
news, believe me.
You got him.
Those are old news. But yeah, now today we're gonna have the EMEA monthly, so it's gonna be Europe, Middle East, and Africa players. So it'll be the similar system as it was for the Asia Pacific region. So it's gonna be time attack on the 3 FastPoint maps into the top 16 player single elimination bracket tournament. So the way how it will work: 3 maps, best players from qualifier. Then we move on to a bracket stage where all the top players from the bracket will be playing in it. I'm not too sure what's with these issues today. It's like I always have to be, guys. So can't ever
Classic life.
anything ever can't go perfectly smooth. It's just like it's always happens like that. But yeah, we're gonna go to a small bracket stage. It's gonna be played the good old-fashioned cup modes, up to 100 points. The final is gonna play till only one winner, and the second, third, fourth is decided on how much points they had and how early they reached the how early or how fast they reached the finalists. So that will be reaching the finalists faster will give that additional upper advantage. But yeah, so this is gonna be a monthly format. So last time we tried to make this region based. So last week it was for Asia Pacific. This week we have Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and next week is gonna be both Americas. So both Americas, and I don't know why Boney's not appearing. It shows up a preview, but as soon as go on the live, it's gone. Well, it gets some. I don't know why. Not too sure why it's like that, but hopefully I'll try to figure that stat in the meanwhile. But yeah, anyways, have you checked out some of the maps so far? And what do you think of how this event could be? Also, because how the event in total, how it looks as a potential good step up as a tryout for some people to get a bit into competitive side of Trackmania. As usually, cup mode is not a thing that you can try out that often. And due to that, you know, it's at least to, how can I say this? Is that this will gives that opportunity for most players to try themselves out, also to bit prove themselves, as there's the results, or basically the top players will be rewarded with FastPoint points. As well, the first place will get a bit of prize money at the end. So the FastPoint points will give a bit of a, let's just say, additional advantage in the future events. That sadly, as the full system is slowly, by like every bits and pieces, like every month will be revealed, so the full ecosystem will be known fully at the end of the year, and definitely those points will be something that players will be trying to get at the end when, let's just say, the full picture or the full puzzle pieces will be known. Then that's all be things that will definitely be beneficial. Also heading into next year as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this whole format and who you potentially might see as the maybe even favorites coming out on today? Because I do think that EMEA event will be the most stacked one out of all of the regions.
Yeah, I have been. I mean, obviously from the 3 maps that we have coming up today, Caste. I will mispronounce it all the time. I already know it. Because Wisteria and Euphoria. I mean, if you look at the top times, right? I mean, this is not a surprise per se when you look at Trackmania as a whole. Most players tend to be from around Europe in those top times. So I wouldn't be surprised if today we get to see some fast Trackmania action. And definitely see some of the favorites coming up in this one. Obviously, this will be the case as well for the EMEA and for the APAC one, the Americas and Asia ones. But I mean, for Europe, there's a lot of top 5 players that I've been seeing on the server already, and I don't think we'll necessarily see the same group of people that we, you know, like perhaps names you would normally know, because of the fact that it is as open as it is. It is open to everyone. Prize pools aren't that high, but it's a great venue for these new players to come in and you know, just come in from home. Just make sure you sign up at the right time. And, you know, you're good to go. You can come in, you can hang out. I mean, obviously, you don't know which maps are coming up. There are 5 maps in total. We're only playing 3 specifically. And I don't know, I haven't been that used to the maps just yet. From what I've seen, there's definitely some high skill required. I don't feel like these are, you know, your easy track of the days, per se. I mean, track of the days can be hard. But it's definitely a step up where, you know, you're definitely having to challenge yourself and having to optimize these lines, because most of the time you'll be able to drive a track pretty consistently. I think for every track that is the case, and it's a matter of optimizing the space that you can use. I think Euphoria is a very good example of that. A lot of dirt on that track, And while you could drive through that track and lose your gear all the dang time, and even stay in fourth through most of these turns, there is still a lot of space and a lot of speed to be gained throughout the map, and I think that is what's going to make the difference at the end of the day, between who will be qualifying and who won't be.
Yeah, soon we'll be starting the match, and before that, actually, there's multiple servers. So in total, I believe there were over 100 participants applying for this. So there's multiple servers. So on this exact server, we have 29 players on. So basically, top 16 players from all of the servers. So we see the top times on the top left. So we'll see approximately who are the fastest players of the bunch. So the top 16 players from all of the servers from all of the 3 maps will be moving on to the bracket stage. So the points will basically be taken as a campaign sorts. So the top players from all of the maps will be So basically, if you get world record, you get most amount of points, and it gives you a better advantage. So getting that top 1 time on one of the 3 maps is the thing that they'll be looking for. What's the cool part? That we see players like Benoxy and Ido Tamar, who played also in the Middle East and Africa tournament. And they will also be appearing in this one, so it's going to be interesting to see how they also stack up against the rest of the European field. As Europeans, let's just say the gates were opened, they have flooded in, and we'll see how they stack up against, let's just say, the most dominant region in the game. Of course, not with all the top players, but a lot of tier 2, tier 3 players still from Europe, Europe playing, but at least have this nice stack up afterwards as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I love the fact that we get these African players to come in and play in the tournaments. Obviously, this being open in that way, I mean, they've been, growing their scene as well, and hopefully we'll see more players come in from that area and just, diversify the field even more. The skill level in Europe, I mean, has been high mainly because it's been popular, and at the same time, these tier 2, tier 3 players are used to, playing against tier 1 players, if you will. So they're definitely not, just, easy. Don't let the tier 2, tier 3 fool you in any way, shape, or form. Because the difference between those players in tier 1 can be quite big for anyone just coming in, right? Wetting their feet in this competitive scene, if you will. Does look like we are live by now. We've got some players coming in. We got 7 minutes to set up some nice times. Taking things off on Guste. I mean, I'm just gonna call it closet at this point, alright?
No, you can say Caste, just say Caste or how it's easier. Caste is the best pronunciation, as we have the first few rounds being already attempted, and seems like that Strick, who is a player I have not really heard about, is currently leading with the 45-7 as the very first attempt. So already seeing 0.8 as the cutoff range is definitely showing the level, as 0.45 8 was the time that was, let's just say, the peak times from the APAC scene and also from the EMEA scene, where 0.8 was mainly done from those side of players.
I mean, sir, he is third, so he has been practicing this track a lot, and I mean, it's paying off right now. I mean, 45-7s are, I wouldn't be surprised if 45-6s is what it takes to secure a spot in top 16. Looking at ours right now in his run, just trying to improve his time. He was in 7th place. Boss Bez knocked him off over there, so let's see if he's able to improve his time this time around. Very curious to see. Make sure I actually have him on screen. There you go.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. On this server, currently Thomas Jean is leading with the 45-6. Which is, I believe it's 0.1 or 0.2 from the current world record.
It is.
Babsy is also quite up there with the 0.7, but a lot of 45s, so keep in mind that there are 3 more servers opening, so we're currently on the, let's just say, the top server, but each server has locked till 30 players, so there's a bunch of other players playing on other servers. Skiro now is number 1, currently with 0.63 on this map that was made by yours truly. Personally, actually a bit of lore. So I knew that there will be a lot of diverse set of maps sent in, so I kind of wanted that this map that exists is very, very easy. Because at the end of the year, there will be, in total for the FastPoint set, there's gonna be 15 maps in total. And let's just say there's gonna be one major event at the year where basically best players from all of the events where FastPoint has been involved to will, let's just say, be a part of it, to like have a chance to even compete at. And so all of the maps from the FastPoint set will be played and will be given as an opportunity for the players to pick during that tournament. So there might seem that some maps might not be appearing, but they will be, as let's just say, given as an option to play in the bigger event that will be coming at the end of the year. And usually,
that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
these 5 maps have been great already.
Yeah, and with usually with the more simplistic maps, there's more diversity popping up with some strats, especially if, let's just say, the road is a bit more width or there's given more space, because there's more like diversity of lines that you can potentially take. And we already have seen there's like certain, like you can take the jump just like 0.2 difference if you're like not experienced. For most top players, it should be like easy peasy to take the outside line and then go on the pipeline. It should be very simplistic, but for some less experienced players, they still have that breathing room. However, let's just say, speaking about breathing room, there's not going to be that much breathing room, as it's going to be quite cutthroat, as only top 16 players will be able to move on to the bracket stage, and the times are already looking very, very tight.
Very tight. And I mean, at the same time, right, you've got 7 minutes to try and set a time. The map itself takes 45 seconds, so you don't really have, that many attempts, so you very much see those players coming out on top that are consistently driving fast, right? Because usually hunting these times, you have space, you can relax, you can really work on trying to get your line as optimized as possible. But it's, when there's 7 minutes on the clock, you got to do it right then, right there. And it's, it's to be expected from Kiro, from Thomas Jean, right? I think Nico, Heave are all players that you expect to just, do that consistently. For someone like Sturke who comes in, I haven't seen him before either. Well, he has top 3, but how used is he to driving fast during live rounds? And he's doing a fantastic job right now in top 5 with a 45.7. I mean, he's been pretty much in that top 5 throughout this entire map. I think he'll be fine for hitting top 16 for this track in particular. Hopefully he'll be able to do that on the 2 maps coming up afterwards as well. Very curious to see Yiddish Yessi. He is not as high at the moment. With a 48.4, so definitely, playing against players who are not at the same level, at a higher level than he is, but at the same time, having a good time, and I really encourage anyone to just come in. I mean, the fact that we have over 100 players coming in to qualify, obviously only 16 can come in. I think it's still
honestly,
great to just play. Right?
Honestly,
just have a good time.
I did not expect that there will be that many.
It's insane.
I'm actually planning to rework the format, maybe for EMEA, so to give like more opportunity for more players to play. So let's say top 64, seeing how many players have played today, like give more opportunity. Let's say top 64 then has the chance to play in the rounds more environment. Because I mean, 16 I think is a good number for like the smaller scenes. Within the Trackmania scene, but I think for Europe, 16 is way too cutthroat, I feel like.
Perhaps so, yeah. It's very much with this pace that these players are driving. You can see the time differences between, right, at this point, 6 players all driving 0.6s. It says a lot about, the pace that's being driven when, your world record time at the moment is a 45.54, which, I mean, from what I saw, is very optimized as well, right? There's still time, obviously, to take off, but it says a lot about how used the players are to driving this one. And it's, I mean, as you say, right, it's a definitely more accessible track, which allows for these times to be as close as they are, right? Because it will take less time for these players to really optimize the lines. Aris doesn't like it, though. Sorry, Aris.
I'll give the plus though.
Yeah, give him plus. There you go. Counter him. What do you mean minus? He's probably not happy with his time.
But yeah, 6 players with a 0.6, so that's fast. So that's around like 0.1 from Bro. Of course, the map is not one of the hardest ones. Like I said, I wanted so it like is like an introductory map, so it's way more simplistic in its nature. So like especially from players who are a bit more experienced, that's why the closeness will come in. However, let's just say appetizer is a bit over, at least for the qualifiers, and we're starting to go into a bit more meaty maps, let's just say like that. As now we're going to be going into Vysteria. So Vysteria was one of the maps that, let's just say, had a lot of was more consistency based. I do feel like this map will be definitely more pace based. I am expecting a lot of times that will be driven here in around like mid 42s on average. So most likely some like 0.3s will definitely be popping up, especially during the qualifier.
Yeah, this definitely has been one of the tracks. I mean, from me playing through this, I'm not the best player out there. I know that. Regardless, I still try to play every track out there whenever I cast it, and this has, for me, been the most tricky one simply due to feeling like I'm treading the needle most of the time. I feel like that's the best way I could describe driving this track, where you have these turns, these transitions from roads to dirt, feeling narrow. I should say, feeling narrow. I mean, these players will make it look effortlessly. I mean, especially the ones, at the top, driving those top times. But it very much feels like that, where, you want to be exact, you want to make sure you don't jump a bit too high or a bit too wide to make sure that you get those lines down. Definitely one where I expect the times to not be as close during qualifications, but at the same time, I always am one to be surprised, and I love that risky fin at the end, I will say. The bounce.
One thing to
really
note
fun.
about the risky finish is that there's the plastic parts, and on the bit on top, there's just a basic sign. And that sign will not give the bounce, so you kind of want to aim for the plastic part. We might see some players, maybe in the cup mode rounds, when it will get really, really tense, is that some players seems like that they cannot get the bounce, but in reality they have hit on the sign. So that could be one of the things that might give like that kind of vibe to it. So like, oh man, he just, like the plastic didn't work or something like that. No, it's just them hitting that sign. And this one of the maps is like I would call one of the one-liners. So it's like you just have this one line that you have to maintain throughout the map. There's not that much room that you can work for. And due to that, it's very consistency based, because you don't have that much room for mistakes or any line alterations. There are some minor changes where you can either get that extra additional grip, for example, like spectating Jack right now, where he went for the small grip part. But other than that, it's very straightforward, and it's just about trying to be consistent. And personally, I'm a more fan of like so-called open maps when you have more line diversity. So you can, it comes also with more opportunity for unique strats, unique lines. But I feel like this kind of map structure, it can be definitely used. It's a bit more used to in competitive Trackmania, especially in the modern meta, I would say, of mapping. But anyway, we have our first times coming in. Elcon with a 42-1. So far, definitely the fastest time. I believe most of these times are, let's just say, a bit above some of the previous events that we have seen, which is a bit expected from the European scene, especially from the Tier 2, but we have seen some solid names as well. Like Elcon seeing as well here, Loud is playing as well, so I'm very looking forward to who will be the top 16 players who will actually come out on top when the qualification ends.
Definitely. I mean, I was just looking at Elcon's time because I was wondering if this was a PB, and I mean, he just set a PB with that. I mean, that's a great way to, at least online PB. For all I know, he's been practicing offline, but it's,
it should be online.
Definitely a good feeling. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still a good feeling to know, like, I'm driving, a 0.1, especially on a track like this, where, as you say, there's this one line that you really want to follow, and it's that treading the needle. That's the way I would describe it, right? Where there's no space to really experiment that much, right? The line is the line. You want to make sure you follow it and optimize it as much as possible. I mean, it's really paying off for Elcon. I think definitely is one of those players that benefits from tracks like these in that sense. Though we do see, Emot coming in with a 42-124, beating Elcon, taking number 1. Definitely.
Yeah, Emot is not on this server, as there are 4 servers in total. So we're at least seeing all of the times being collided. I'm actually, one thing I'm looking forward to, how many players have in total participated, because for the first month, it's gonna be an absolute bloodbath. I can't put like how insane and how difficult it's actually to reach the top 16. But
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because how we're starting to see some very solid tier 2, tier 3 players popping out. Let's just say out of those shadows due to that. And we'll see who will actually be the player who comes out on top. Afterwards, we get our top 16 players from all 3 maps. Then we'll go to a single nation cup mode. As a pretty straightforward format, as a good old 1v1v1 system, However, the final is gonna be played only till one winner, and all the second, third, and fourth is decided based on how many points did the players had, and how early did the players manage to collect the finalist as well.
Looking at Alcon right now, he's trying to improve his time first on the server, but I mean, it's you know, obviously we have 4 servers, and a 42.3 isn't barely not enough to get into top 7. I'm pretty sure he's number 8 or number 9 with that overall. Definitely is one of those players who will make it in. I'm very curious to see about the other players that might come in. I mean, Final Goodbye right now is 2nd on server, Sivlair 3rd, Fonter 4th. These are all on server, right? Lars Schildwacht is one that I've been seeing pop up in the top 5. Which I haven't seen at Comics. Where were you? Right, I'm just gonna call people out right there.
One thing to note that Final Goodbye is Loso. So if for a more relatively experienced from the scene, you might have heard the player called Loso. So that is the player who Final Goodbye is. A bit of a veteran player within the Trackmania scene, especially from the Trackmania 2 era. Might have been a recognized name, I would say. Definitely a player with a bit of experience here and there as well. But anyway, I really love to see all these players coming here. And having some solid times as boss base, not from this server, but from other servers, has actually set currently the fastest time of 42.0. Has currently leads the qualifier so far for the EMEA monthly. At least on this map.
That time. I mean, he's, I mean, we've seen him during the TSCC, right? And I mean, throughout the tournaments, I feel like, and in general, he's really been growing as a player as well. I mean, definitely a player for top 16. I don't think there's a question in my mind that Boss Best won't make it in. But at the same time, it very much feels like one of those players that I can really see grow into that tier 1 and you know, compete on the big stage later on, which I think is definitely something, in my opinion, very much enjoyable to look forward to, right? Having these players come in like that, and Boss Best has been one that I've been seeing for years at this point, and I mean, you know, he's setting these times, he's setting a top 5. I'm sure someone else will come in with the minute remaining, but I don't know. It's nice to just see all this new blood come in. Though Boss Best has been around for a bit, technically.
Yeah, one of the goals of this, like, from FastPoint is to like give like this more experience and give this more chance for a lot of players who are like trying to up and come within the Trackmania scene. To like, you know, get that more chance to try themselves to like play more in like this rounds mode or cup mode, try to experience it, try to also compete with other players who are like relatively similar, or also either from their own regions, like with like the APAC or the Americas that will be in next week. So I'm kind of looking forward to that and how that will be playing out next Friday. But starting next month, the monthlies will be moved to Saturday. And so there might be a small format change, especially for the EMEA. If there's a scene like this so big like participant count to like give like, you know, more people more chance to at least reach that bracket stage. But yeah, last few seconds currently during the qualifier on Visteria, and that seems like on this server at least, August will be taking the dubs. But in total, Ezion managed to pop in the very front and managed to win the qualifier and map 2 with a 42.04.
42.04. I mean, it says a lot about. I mean, looking at the times as well, right? We have a couple of O's, couple of 1s, couple of 2s. I mean, obviously times are still relatively close, but not as, you know, close as they were on the previous track, which says a lot about Wisteria being as precise as it is. I mean, right now, next map coming up, Euphoria, is definitely one for the dirt enjoyers. I mean, there's obviously not a majority of dirt, but there are quite a lot of dirt turns that I can imagine will make the difference between top 16 and not top 16, especially with how stacked things are right now.
Yes. One thing I'm a bit, let's just say, paranoid is that created this tournament before there was a competition tool update, so there might be some things a bit iffy with the qualifier. And that's kind of giving me a bit of anxiety due to that. There was... Yeah, but hopefully he'll be fine. On Trackmania.io you will also be able to see all the match results and everything like that. There will be one thing that's gonna be a bit off, and the whole like total leaderboard will be inverted. But that's only a thing that's gonna be happening for these events, as they were like created before the update, and the update a bit screwed down some things here and there. So it will be a thing that pipe up. One thing that I'm also a bit paranoid that we might get 5-minute qualifier instead of 7 minutes, but hopefully that will not be the case. If it will, then it should be still no problem, as most top players manage to get to time just from the very few rounds. But yeah, afterwards this is the last map, and after then we'll be going to single nation cup mode parts, and then we'll see who will be the top 16 players who will be playing in the bracket stage. And we'll see how this will, like, I feel like this is like really cutthroat, especially for that top 16, as it's like so close and so tight, as we have seen from all of the top peak times that players have been doing. So seeing who'll be the players who will come out on top on the top 16 will be one of the things that will be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you know, divided along 4 servers, it's, you know, it's hard to really gauge who is out on top and who might not quite be in. I don't know if, because obviously we're looking at this one particular server, but for all we know, right, this is one of the slower servers, and we might not see these players afterwards because of how many players are and because of how tight things are. I mean, this track itself, we can expect some players to come in, put in their first time in, I don't know, like 15 seconds. There you go. Obviously, there's a bit of, oh yeah, it's also good to know there is some difference between when servers start, their matches or not, so because of that, we see them coming in a bit earlier than we do on this server in particular. So far nobody has finished, but there we go, we got our first finishers in. Aris with a 54.3, Final Goodbye 54.4, Funter 54.7s. But yeah, if you then look at the overall rankings, I mean, those are good for numbers 3 and 4, but Alcon right now with a number 1 54.0, right? We've got Imot coming in with a 54.2, Heath, Nico coming in with 54.5s each, very close to each other in fact, in that sense. But yeah, it's very hard to then gauge, like, oh yeah, this is going to be it. These are going to be the players. And I mean, I'm seeing some familiar names, but I'm also seeing some new names. And I think it's going to be a healthy mix. It's going to be a healthy mix of the two. And very curious to see who that top 16 will consist of. I mean, right now, Alcon seems to be one of them. Aris, Final Goodbye, Imot. I think Stifts probably will be as well. Heath. Very curious who will be close to, like, not barely making it. I think there will be some upsets. I think there'll be some names that you expect to see in top 16 that just don't make it.
Yeah, I'm getting small info from behind the scenes that Imot is actually Ratchet. So Ratchet very well known for changing the names all the time. So that's one thing that, you know, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, alright, Ratchet, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, alright. I mean, he's, yeah, obviously a great player, so that's not surprising to then be being, you know, number 2 right now. And, I mean, throughout, just being top 16.
Yeah, and I think now the real question is, will the qualification end in either 2 minutes or 4 minutes? So, I think that's one thing that we could bet on.
There are 2 timers. It's gonna be one or the other. I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see when it actually
Personally,
ends.
I hope that it's the 4-minute one, but you may never know.
True, it's true. We'll find out live. It's gonna be great. I mean, so far from what I'm seeing, you know, players have been able to set some nice times. Obviously, 3 minutes in, and you know, like, players are very close together. I mean, look at that. Aris, Tyler, Final Goodbye, Sterk, all 54.3s. I think 54.3 is pretty much 54.3, 54.4 is what you're looking for if you're aiming for that top 16 spot. I mean, Alcon, though, just reigning supreme. Nobody so far getting that close, but I mean, Alcon and Dirt, I think, is it's a match made in heaven, right? So I'm not too surprised to see him top the leaderboards right now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of solid times. Also, one thing to note is Benoxy, who was top 4 in the Middle East and Africa Trackmania Championships, also is kinda up there, might be in the verge of reaching the top 16 as well. So it could be really cool to see some of the players from the tournaments also played in from the smaller regions events also popping up in the, let's just say, and doing some damage also in the EMEA total one. So we'll see how that will turn up. I saw Idotamar as well on this server, but he wasn't performing that well so far, but doesn't look like it, especially from the base of the other servers on what was the preference. However, maybe if you suddenly maybe in the last 45 seconds managed to pump in that really insane time, then maybe it might be just possible.
We'll see if, I mean, maybe they'll have 1 minute and therefore 1 chance, or 2 minutes. They'll have, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 chances. We'll see what happens. I'm very, very curious to see. I'm by the way, just looking at the leaderboards real quick. Oh no, there you go. So Thomas John finally set a better time. He was pretty low in the rankings on the server so far, and I mean that's definitely one of the, you know, your players you would expect to see pretty high from, you know, just knowing the name. But I think he's having some issues really trying to set a good time right now. He's driving a 55. So, but then again, maybe he already had enough by that, you know, number 1. I think he had number 1 on the map. Oh, yeah, we're just done.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, looks like it then. Yeah, looks like then the top timer was the one in the end. Yeah, sadly it doesn't all happen like that. So, wait. Oh, there you are. There you are. Finally, you have appeared on this side as well.
Hey,
so
there we go. We made it. We made
yeah,
it.
so currently now qualification, and then in the end it was the top timer. Then, like, we had this discussion, and in the end it was the top time. Well, that happens when you do the presets of the events way too early on before event starts. You get random updates in the middle and stuff changes that you can't anywhere modify. Anyway, we still got a solid pool of like top 16 players. They managed to set a solid time on top 2 maps, but it's gonna be, they still had a bit of time, so on the last map as well. So we'll see now the full orb will gonna be the top 16 players in total. So soon we're gonna go on a small break while we see everything being set up on the qualification sides. All of the players will also be notified who have made it, who have not in the end, since all results have been still captured. But yeah, either way, that's gonna be for us for a tiny bit, and we'll be back with the bracket stage, also with the results of the qualifiers. So see you. And we're back. Okay, super. So our qualifications just ended. We had our bit of incident at the end with the 2 timers, but we knew that the timer on the top was in the end real one. Also, what we also know the top 16 players who he had seen in the end. So currently the players who have qualified will be able to join on the servers. I personally thought actually that the leaderboard will be inverted, but at the end it was fine. A bit of a shame, with a bit of upset I would say, is that Thomas-Jean did not manage to make it. Instead we have our bit different top 16. There are some players who have their flags missing because I simply didn't expect them, but they'll be added in the database within the future, so they'll appear on the full list of the players in the future as well. So it's like good to put them name outs, and then all the details and info around them will appear in the future as well. Anyways, the 16 players that we have is Ratchet, who is under the name of iMod Jr. Then we have Azion, Bosbes, Elkon, Strick, Nico, Kiro, Losso, or Final Goodbye, Heave, Auris, Imod, Parenbecker, Stufts, Loudest, Broly. Broly's name in-game is the other way around written, so it might seem like that weird name that's kind of hard to pronounce, but that's Broly. And Louis Shibd. Okay, here's the fun with names, I guess. So
yeah, Laius Schildwacht. I know. I'd call him Lazy Guard. That's what I do.
Okay, let's then call him Lazy Guard, I guess, then.
Yeah, there you go.
But now if you look at the brackets, so all of the 4 matches will be played at the same time. So we have all of the 4 matches being played in around like 2 or 3 minutes. So if you're a participant, definitely make sure to join. You'll have just your own server being displayed, so you don't need to have this mess, where's my server? Just press play, you'll have the one server given, and that's yours. Which do you think could be the match that we could look out for between all of these 4 that we could check out? Who do you think so?
I think just taking a look right at the matches, we would have. I don't think it'd be very much a surprise for me to say match 1 that Ratchet would be the favorite in that one, right? He's been doing great during qualifiers, and in general, he's a great player. But you know, you still have Loso, you have Heave. Laius Schildwacht came in, 16, barely eking in. So I think, for him, it's definitely a fight up, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'd say Ratchet Loso or Ratchet Heave, right? I don't think it's gonna be
Honestly,
between
that
Loso
could
and
be
Heave.
one. Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be a 3-way fight. Though Ratchet's gonna
Yeah.
be definitely the person who does come most on top, but that's first for second. I feel like that's gonna be the real fight, so I feel like that will be the match that we'll be watching on the main broadcast. So that will be the game that definitely you need to look out for. The match will be actually starting very, very, very soon. So what's your prediction on the upcoming match? So we have all of these 4 players from Ratchet, Heave, Loso, and also I will not say the full name, but you can please say it.
Elias Schildwacht.
Yes, so we'll have with him as the first player as well. And that will be our first final. Yeah, great spelling by myself. So those will be the quarterfinal matches that will be being played out, and the match will be actually starting just now. So that will be the top 2 players, how this will work. The other 3 matches are played at the same time. It's going to be played to the good old-fashioned 1v1v1 cup modes. It's going to be played till 100 points on the randomized map order. The points repartition is 10-7-5-3. So that's something to note, but everything else should be, let's just say, up to usual. So the top 2 players will be moving on forwards to the brackets. The bottom 2 will be eliminated. However, all the players who manage to survive the qualifier will receive at least 1 match point. FastPoint point for the full circuit for the EMEA points. So this is each region has their own dedicated leaderboard. So if you are either from APAC or Americas, then you have their own dedicated leaderboard, which, believe me, that's the leaderboard where you want to be on the top as well. And I definitely think the sweatiest one will be from the for the EMEA one, but we'll see. So I would just say Louis. So Louis definitely is the massive underdog here, having to face off against 3 very experienced players from the Trackmania European scene especially. Heave, who also had a solid performance in the Raider Cup as well, has known a bit of controversies here and there, but also known with his skill as well. And the other one is Loso or Final Goodbye in game, who is let's just say, one of the more experienced players, with of course Aimo Jr. or aka Ratchet, who also qualified himself for the TMGLC as we're going live on the first round.
Live on the first round. Nice start from all the players until I start speaking, and we see crashes happening from Ratchet and Heave, so we're left with a 1v1 between Loso and Elias Schildwacht. But Elias Schildwacht in the lead. I mean, he is the underdog right here, so it would be very beneficial for him to pick up the first 10 points of the match if he's able to hold on to this lead. Very closely, you can see Loso trying to catch up. Ooh, steers in a bit too early. And Elias Schildwacht all in his own. Does he realize it? Is he aware of this massive lead that he has right now? Full 2 seconds right now ahead. So I think he'll be okay. I think he will be fine the way things are going. We do see Ratchet in hot pursuit. Loso and Heave both quite a ways behind. And there we go. Elias Schildwacht picking up his first 10 points. Got Ratchet coming in on number 2 with 7 points. Loso with the DNF, and Heave having 10 seconds remaining to finish. And I mean, he's pretty much there. He'll make it, and he does. 5 points going to him. So no points so far for Loso. Bad start for him, but still plenty of rounds for him to.
But yeah, what a start! What a start for Louis. Like the underdog, getting the first dub in the first round. We already thought, he's gonna be the bottom one. But look at this, the full leaderboard is basically inverted. But yeah, coming up on the next round, definitely. Imot? Okay, it's not Imot, it's Ratchet. Imot is actually playing. Imot himself is actually qualified, and he's in a match that currently is happening off stream. So Imot and Imot Jr. are both in the same events, but yeah, Imot Jr. is Ratchet in the end. Ratchet known for a lot of name switching, as we actually have a pretty solid round so far. Ratchet quite far ahead. Unfortunate line from Louis went a bit too outside, had to oversteer a bit, managed to maintain himself, but it was enough for the other players to bid forth as Imot clipped aside with the wheel, put himself at the bottom of the scene. Now it's a 1v1 between Heave and Loso for those top 10 pointers for the top. Heave has way more exit speed coming out the end. The line was a bit better and the bonk in the side was not enough to overtake Loso in the end, as Loso actually gets the dub in this round. But actually a bit unfortunate for Louis, as he had a small crash in the end that allowed Ratchet to overtake him in the very last moments of the map.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. Like turning himself around and not crossing the finish line. It's definitely it sucks. You know, that's 2 points. You can have extra that could matter towards the end. Still in the lead, but a very diverse field right now. Right, 13, 12, 12, 10 is the point distribution at the moment. So anyone's game just yet, and I mean the previous round really gave us a showing of how consistent these players can be driving. I'd say the first round in that sense was more of a fluke, if you will. Right now, 3 players hanging out side by side. We got Loso just hanging out from the back. Lars Schildwacht, ooh, having a little bit of a clip happen right there, losing a lot of speed. So we're left with Ratchet and Heave at the moment, side by side, fighting it out as we get quite close to the end of the track, and still neither of them really giving away an inch. No one crashing. It's going to be a photo finish to the finish lines. Heave picking up the 10 points with Ratchet. Emot Jr. 400ths of a second behind him. I mean, that's pretty much the same difference in times during the previous round, except in that situation, it was Final Goodbye picking up the 10 points. So this time around, only 5 going to him, and Lars Schildwacht not able to keep that momentum that he started off the match with, picking up 3 points.
Yeah, it seems like Heave
Great round, though.
Yeah, Heave is the person who now starts to cash in with all those mistakes from the others. As Louis, despite having that insane opener of the match, taking that, let's just say, cashing in on the mistakes from others, getting that 10-pointer, is starting to make a lot of mistakes on his own. Now he's a bit falling back. On paper, he can be really close in terms of pace. Definitely is the player who can cash in on others' mistakes. But seems like he is definitely cashing in on another skill issue, if you can say like that. And now goes into leads as having a solid round from all the 4 players so far, despite even a Ratchet and Loso having a bit slower approaches so far. Our Ratchet is slowly cashing and trying to risk for those middle lines. He went a bit outside, trying to save approach a bit. However, Ratchet's still very close with the approach. Got a small wiggle from the side. Ratchet going for a wider line. He with the small oversteer at the end. Ratchet gets tiny bit more speed, but should be locked in with a solid 1, 2, 3, 4 at the ending of the round.
He's really holding down that first place there. I mean, it's very much once these players get going, you can tell that any tiny error, any tiny mistake, right, slight oversteer is just gonna lose that first place potential. And I mean, Heave right there, just able to lock it down, keeping it tight, and ends up going out on the first round, first map with 32 points at the top. So you know, not the best start, right, with some crashes here and there, but recovering just fine on the second, third, and fourth round around the map. Looks like our next track is going to be Wisteria.
Yeah, and that's a map that was definitely one of the, how can I say, it's from one of the, that has this linear ones in its structure. Was the one of the ones that can definitely pop out a lot of mistakes. It's very transitional heavy, as there's a lot of places where you have the micro air times where you just can get a bit more air time than usual. And just don't have that grip for that, I don't know, couple of tenths of a second. For example, also just going there as well, as in that minor, so you have to like preset the car way before like the section starts with just minor corrections. And that can lead to a lot of inconsistencies coming in the rounds. I'm actually pace-wise kinda, honestly expected a bit faster times, especially based off the first map. The times were very solid actually, around like 0.4, 0.5 pace. But honestly a bit expected faster. I've kinda had the same idea in the head that European players are especially like way above, but actually they were very mimicking the pace that Criso and Winkyface were doing in the APAC one.
Right.
Where actually Winkyface had a 0.3 on the first map, so he was still a bit above the first top pace of these players right here. As we're actually going on the first round on Wisteria by Manox and Kyle, who are both Brazilian mappers so far. It looks like Loso with an unfortunate start, had a small clip early on. Seems like Louis, Heave, and Ratchet are still in the fight. We're going for the small grip from the side, but seems like a very tight fight for those top 10 pointers. Or there's either it's 10 or 7 between Ratchet and Heave so far, as the 1v1 is going forwards. I would say Ratchet using the Riolu car, but let's just not go in that direction. But yeah, very solid round currently, both from Heave and Ratchet. Heave trying for that inside lane, but Louis is also not that far behind. It looks like Ratchet actually takes the dub with the 42-4, and Heave as well with a very behind them with the 42.5. Very solid times all around, but Ratchet is the person who does come on top and starts to reduce the gap between him and Heave in this match.
Yeah, just 3 points between the two. First place from Ratchet would be enough to tie it up, and even overtake Heave if Heave manages to get a worse time. Will also again with a bit of a bad start, trailing behind, not having a good time so far on this track. Laius Kultoft still playing from behind. It does look like Heave and Ratchet just have a stronger opening at the moment, allowing them to basically drive side by side and really fight for that first place, with Ratchet right now taking the charge and starting to get away from Heave. Let's see if he's able to do so as Heave actually clips on the block right there, allowing Loso and Laius Kultoft to come in, and with Loso actually overtaking Laius Kultoft. Laius Kultoft thought he was going to be able to get a number 2 spot, but Loso coming in clutch, picking up 7 points of his own, and Ratchet picks up 10, and with that takes first place away from Heave.
Yeah, and solid time from him as well, as he actually got a 0.1, which I believe is like
0.1, yeah.
Is 0.2 from world record. World record on this map is a 41.9. So a solid pace right here, especially in a map that has the straightforward execution needed throughout the map. So trying to optimize it, reduce those oversteers, and let's just say reduce the travel distance, so it just makes those micro time saves add up during the match. Definitely trying to get use of that. Maybe if it's a so-called pointless risk, because other players had a lot of mistakes. However, this time we have a solid round together between the 3 players. Also, Louis as well being up there in the mix. Ratchet currently is leading the field, but Loso is very close. Bit unfortunate takes the speed from Louis, allows Loso to overtake, but again a solid round overall, but Ratchet still starts to come out on top.
Ratchet I mean, he's really starting to rake in these points and starting to get away from Heave right now, right? 45 for Heave, Ratchet on 56. Something I've been noticing though is, I mean, Loso is very much taking advantage of that final turn, and Laius Kultoft seems to be a bit more conservative when it comes to that turn, perhaps just due to the way he's been landing, or just because he might not be as confident in that turn as the other players are, but you can really see players overtake him at that point, because throughout the rest of the track, everybody's doing a fantastic job, and it's really that final turn that's been causing some issues. You see Laius Kultoft disappearing out into the sunset, and we're left with Ratchet and Heave at the moment at the top of the leaderboards, and Heave really starting to gain on Ratchet. Great attack, but it's going to be enough in the end. No, barely not. Ratchet coming in through the final turn, having a bit more exit speed and bouncing a bit earlier into the finish, so another 10-point goes this way. Heave not able to make up the difference just yet.
Yeah, but it was really close from his execution. Like, those are solid times. 0.3s are really good round times on this. Like, they were very solid. That was the last round on Wisteria, and now we're gonna be going to Kasten. I'm actually expecting a lot of really sick rounds on this, as the map is the simplest from the map pack. However, usually from simplicity, it's very heavy on those micro adjustments, micro time saves. How long do you... What's your travel distance? How much do you oversteer? Like, you have to risk everything on a map like this. And sometimes, like, so you need to, like, optimize and get those... You have to go as closer to the wall, have to, like, get that momentum going throughout the map. Like, and pop up more and more mistakes. So we might see some mistakes here and there just because they're trying to risk so much in certain moments. But at the same time, they'll try to go for all these optimal lines and like all the strats just to use all the space that they have been given to just rack up all the speed that they have, as Ratchet is giving a good example of that. Also, there's an interesting technique on the sand part where we're currently watching Ratchet. If you land on the bounce before the hills, you get an interesting low jump, which allows you to gain way more momentum that lands with the nose down. And it's the most optimal strat to do for that specific part, because it allows you to carry way more momentum in the end. Plus, it allows you to just snipe by the checkpoint if you have the best tech drift at the end.
I'm very curious to see if, I mean, so far Ratchet was doing a fine job at that. I mean, I do think, as you say, right, it's turns that might seem simple, but simply due to the fact that this is a track that rewards that consistency because of its openness. we're gonna have some close times, and at the same time, like some more photo finishes as we had during the previous track. Right now, though, Loso very much feeling a lot better than he has been throughout the previous tracks, but everybody very close together, right? Just a tenth of a second separating the four as we get to the final jump. Loso still in the lead. Ratchet gets a bit more speed out of the jump, but is it going to be enough to overtake? No, doesn't look like that, as Loso drives a 45.8. Solid time to kick things off, but I wouldn't be surprised if we will see some higher pace coming in through the next rounds.
I mean, this already is solid pace. I think this was...
It's solid pace, yeah. It's... But I can imagine people wanting, to push each other, right? Feel the pressure of, wanting to perform even more. I mean, right now, Ratchet, 73 points, really got away from everyone during the previous track. And Heave and Loso are fighting to get that second spot in. Lars Stiltoft, unfortunately, 40 points, and he's going to have to really make something happen if he wants to stay in contention for second place.
Yeah, but close rounds as expected. So we'll see how always there's a small mistake from Heave. This is the thing that I said, is like you have to push like crazy on a map like this, and that mistake popped up in just in that turn. As it's very hard, a bit of an awkward drift, I would say. It's actually coming out that part. Bit too big of an oversteer coming from Louis, doesn't manage to rack up as much extra speed as others. And seems like Ratchet will be running away with another plus 10 point and putting himself a bit closer to that final range due to that. But actually now, Loso is starting to like really fight with Heave for that second place just to potentially rival out. However, Louis is also not that far away. When we're getting closer to finalists, I can actually see Louis potentially also sniping some additional points and maybe even climbing himself also to the semifinals due to that.
Yeah, I don't think it's definitely, I mean, due to the way the points are set up as well, and the how close these players have been, it's definitely a little bit of, like luck and a bit of confidence in your lines, and I wouldn't be surprised if somehow these rankings would turn each other around. I mean, right now it does feel like Ratchet has been the most consistent so far. As we see, he once again crashing in the same spot. Very unfortunate as well, as the rest of the players start making their way forward. Ratchet still in the lead, Loso second place. You do see Louis, unfortunately, it's just not quite having the pace, hitting the checkpoint, flipping his way out. An awful respawn. Maybe he will be in position to overtake, but he's just a bit too far behind to really take advantage of that mistake. But we do see Ratchet once again coming in first place with a 45.7, 10 points going his way, and he just needs at least 7 points to get into finalist mode.
Yeah, getting very, very close to that, and actually very good times from Ratchet. Like I said, one of the goals of these tournaments is to like give that more rounds opportunity for other players, and despite him being definitely the most experienced in the field, other players are... Okay, yeah, of course, I wanted to praise Louis for stepping up a bit.
I know. I saw.
And
go on.
Yeah, and basically to like have this like opportunity, like to like give this chance to compete, because usually playing in cup mode is like only with a premier events. So having like this kind of monthly basis at least, to have this chance to at least try himself out. So we still have a solid duel for the top two for that 10-pointer right now. Actually, Ratchet was he needed a top two to enter finalists, but instead it's gonna be Loso cashing in those plus 10 points. And due to that, will deny Ratchet on entering finals. As well, he will start to increase lead over Heave, despite being only just 400s above him. Will still give that plus 3 advantage over him on potentially when closing in on the finalist mode, as he's only 24 points away.
Still definitely, hard to fight for that first place, because I mean, whatever happens right now, Ratchet's gonna be in finalist mode, right? He just needs to finish once. He's gonna be finalist mode from that point on. Definitely a situation of just stopping him from getting into first place, which not gonna be easy. I mean, so far he's been driving, first places. I think he had 7, 8 first places so far. I want to say 7, which says a lot over the course of 12 rounds. That's some good point making right there. Back on Euphoria as well. And so far, I mean, everybody's been doing great on all 3 maps. I don't really get the idea that any of these tracks per se is like their favorite. I mean, from what we could tell, what is it? I forgot the name for a second there. Wisteria might not be like a track where Loso seems to be as much in his element, but pretty much through all the other tracks, everybody has been driving, you know, the same pace and the relatively same speed, with minor differences between the players, and it really comes down to just 0.1, maybe 0.2 of a second, depending on the track itself. So, you know, back on Euphoria, I wouldn't be surprised if we somehow find ourselves in a double finalist situation, despite the fact that Ratchet is right now definitely favored to pick up #1 spot in the match.
Yeah, but still, Ratchet just needs to finish this round and he'll be entering finalist. And the top 2 players from this match will be going to semifinals, as bottom 2 will get eliminated. Ratchet definitely put himself as a potential contender. He was the player who did manage to get to #1 seed from the qualifiers. So also one thing that I want to praise a bit Louis a bit, because like all of Heave, Loso and Ratchet have been the players who have been a bunch of experience from a bunch of tournaments in Trackmania's history, and him already having that first round experience in right here and having a sick inside line there. He had to actually a bit oversteer there to not hit the poles because he had so much speed right there. But still like challenging all these players like Loso and Ratchet. However, there's a sick duel at the very top currently. Ratchet is leading, going for a bit of an outsider line. Way too big of an oversteer from Loso, but Ratchet had to even having bigger oversteer to just reduce the speed to not touch the wall, and that allowed Loso to take the 10 pointers. It didn't matter that much as he enters finalist now by default. She just need to have that clear run. However, it now gives a very nice advantage, a bit more breathing room to Loso, especially when I have to duel against Heave for that second slot.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been pretty close between Loso and Heave throughout the second and third map, but you can really see Loso starting to get away. 13 points difference right now between him and Heave. Definitely beneficial for him. As we see Ratchet right now in finalist mode and in the lead. And I mean, both Loso and Heave, I mean, just talking about them, quite a ways behind. Really only Lazy Guard, aka Elias Schildwacht, being the one to contend until a crash from Is, and it's really gonna take a crash from Ratchet for him to somehow throw away this first spot and move on to the semifinals, as we do get to the final third turn. This time around, ooh, does hit the wall. Perhaps Loso comes in, but he's just too far behind. If Loso was just I'd say just, you know, like 3/10 a bit closer, then that would have been fine, which, I mean, is still a lot if I'm being honest, but at the same time, you know, it's a mistake that could have cost him. But fortunately for Ratchet, the other 3 players also made mistakes of their own, and he comes out of the match first place, moving on to the semi-finals, and we're left with 3 players.
Yeah, now it's all the fight for that second slot. At the moment, Loso is definitely looking as the favorite. Heave on paper being the more experienced and way better player overall within the competitive Trackmania scene. So very nice to see a bit more players from other countries also a bit stepping up and challenging these experienced players. However, now Louis is actually the player who leads the field. He was just right behind him. Loso is also there to cash in on a mistake that might happen, so Loso needs to get a top 2 placement in this round. Louis again with that line. He has that line where he actually has so much exit speed and he can't manage to maintain it. Like, he has a good idea going there, but it's like not beneficial as Heave touches. That allows now Loso to go in top 2 places. As long as Loso just doesn't hit the finish, he should enter in finalists, and Louis actually secures plus 10 points that he really needs, especially he needs to now deny basically Loso for every single round, as Loso is an amazing opportunity now. He just needs to win one more round, and he's gone through. Due to that, Heave and Louis would get eliminated.
Yeah, it's a fight for the 2 players at the bottom. I mean, 83 points, 71 points. Definitely a difference that can be made up, but the only way you can do it, yeah, is to just stop Loso from first place every single time. Right now, though, we see Elias Schildwacht taking the lead. We see Heave also overtaking Loso, as his start isn't as good as the other 2 players right now, but still plenty of space for him to catch up. I wouldn't be surprised. We have seen some inconsistency coming in from both players, not in finalist mode at the moment. We'll see if they're able to hold on to it right now. All players very close to each other. We don't see that oversteer happening from Elias Schildwacht, though he does go quite wide on the checkpoint right there. and leaves the first place to Heave, and it's up to Heave to hold on and make sure to not allow Losa to come in if he wants to stay in the tournament. And right now, that is exactly what he is doing, picking up 10 points with a 54.4. We're not quite done yet.
Yeah, and he also denies those additional 2 points from Louis. Like, that's such a mental thing, especially from player perspective. It's like, it's like, because it's like so-called wasted points, because when you're a finalist, you don't get anything, you just deny others from points. And the points do stack up as long as Loso gets denied. And that's definitely a thing that he really doesn't, want to see. So he needs that every single point, because every single point puts him closer and closer. And what's gonna make it more difficult that is now that Heave is also a top 2 away from reaching finalists himself. So that just puts more pressure on Louis to just do really good. However, this is a map that we saw the most mistakes out of. As it's due to its linearity, comes with a lot of let's just say the difficulty as well. Because you need to have that strict line basically throughout the map. And that you have to make it consistent out. And Louis basically needs to win 4 rounds in a row, denying both, and especially Heave and especially Loso from taking the wins to potentially have a saying in the rest of the event. A bit some inconsistencies having in the warm-up from Loso, but I myself say it's better to get all the mistakes out in the warm-up, as you don't want to really see during the match itself. So we'll see how this uncover in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it could be over in 1 round. We could have double final. I mean, double finalist looks to be in the cards. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I mean, this hasn't been the strongest map from Loso this match so far. So I think it's definitely a situation where he probably was hoping where he could have finished it off in Euphoria, but instead he's going to have to try doing that on Wisteria instead, as we do go live. Players kicking things off, and Heave with an early mistake. It is all on the lazy guard on Laius Schildwacht, on Louis himself. Will he be able to keep final goodbye from first place, or will he be eliminated right now? Does lose some speed throughout the turn, crashes into the wall, having to respawn, and it is up to Loso to just drive out the map. He just needs to not worry. Heave right now quite a bit behind. He crashes though, and this is what I've been talking about, right? I've been seeing Loso having some issues on this track. Heave now with a crash, allowing Loso to come in, and from mistake to mistake at the end of the ride, it is going to be Loso who closes out the match. It was looking like he may not have been able to with the crash that he had early on, but instead he does close it out with a 43.6, 10 points going his way, and with that, we say goodbye to Heave and Laius Schildwacht for the tournament. Thank you for coming and hanging out, but today, you unfortunately were not the fastest. Congrats to Ratchet and Loso for moving on.
So yeah, that's gonna be it for the quarterfinals. Slowly we are also wrapping up the other matches as well. I'm currently checking the results, and from match number 4, Bossbez and Imot. So we have Imot and Imot Jr. in the semi. And each of them is gonna be in each other match. So we're gonna see 2 Imots basically. No, not 2 IMODs, but there's gonna be a representative of IMODs in each of the matches.
Exactly, the Council of IMODs will be showing
exactly.
Up.
It's like the Council of like Charlie's of Moist Critical. Like it's like that new version. It's like Trackmania's version of that.
It's gonna be the IMOD universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Movies and everything. It's gonna be amazing, guys. Look forward to it. We'll get, I don't know, maybe we'll get like Warner. No, we can't get Warner Brothers for that. They're already messing things up. I don't know. Maybe we can somehow get our own movie studio up and going, and we'll just set up our emote. What is it? Emote cinematic universe.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, due to that, we have actually, since all of the matches being played at the same time, we're actually getting live updates on what are the results of the other matches. So we have a small sneak peek at the bracket on what on earth is happening in the other places. So we have we see all the top results. So we have our match, but the other match is from the bottom, is where Bossbez and Imots were the 2 people who managed to secure their slot in the semi-final together, eliminating Nico and Laudis. Laudis definitely being one of the, I would say, one of the more experienced players, especially on a tech-based style, who has been like having a just sick performance all around. And on the second match, Azion and Kiro were the players who managed to take the dub in the match 3. So ASEAN won it, Kiro in 2nd, and Auris looks like, yes, Auris was in 3rd, and Brawley was in 4th. So due to that, Auris will get eliminated together with Brawley from that. So we will get one side of the IMOT cinematic universe on the bottom side. So we'll probably see which matches we'll be gonna be spectating afterwards. As currently still waiting for the match number 2 to resolve, but overall, what are your overall thoughts on how this match unfold, and will maybe Ratchet will actually run the fall through the bracket due to that?
It's definitely been an enjoyable match. It's been great to see Elias Kilhoff. I think, you know, like to come in and fight against these 3 known players, right? Established players. I mean, my predictions, I feel like somewhat came true. I you know, like seeing Ratchet come out on top. From seeing the times that he's set up during qualifiers, looking like he's in his element and he's ready for these matches, which he has shown definitely. The fight between Loso and Heath was a great back and forth with Heath initially taking the initiative, even challenging Ratchet for that 1st place, but eventually starting to fight for 2nd with Loso. I mean, it was a bit of a messy end to that all. But a very, very enjoyable duel for 2nd spot, and enjoyable match overall. Was, I mean, at the end of the day, I always hope for like double, triple, quadruple finalist. But even then, I think a great example of the pace that we can expect. And usually the way these things go, right? Players will be going through the matches. They'll improve as they go. They'll get more comfortable. But at the same time, because the players moving on tend to be the fastest, because that's how this works. Pace is just going to be higher for semis and finals, and I think this was a good promise of what's to what's
now
to
we
come.
have a look at the full bracket now. So we're gonna have now a semifinals. So now we see what's gonna be happening on the next round. So we have semifinal 1, which is gonna be Ratchet, Loso, Stuffed, and Elcon. And the other match is gonna be ASEAN, Kiro, Buzzbez, and IMOT. Which map are you kind of leaning towards from both of these matches? I personally want to check out the other match. I do think the semifinal one is going to be pretty stacked, especially regarding the names, as they're more experienced. Match 2 as well, kind of, but I would say it's not going to be next to that tier. Those are matches that are going to be coming up soon, but we can check out some of the players who were currently played or who were eliminated. We had this new fancy scene now. So Heath, Parenwecker, Auris, Nico, Louis, Strick, Brawley, and Loudest were eliminated. They managed to place 9 to 16, so they'll still get that 1 FastPoint point in the end. But we'll see how it will end up for the rest of the top 8. So the winner will get a small, like, let's just say, symbolic prize money with 10 USD. But the main thing is the FastPoint points that players want in the end. So that will be the thing that players really want to get. Well, slowly the things will be, I'll just say, moving towards.
Exactly. Yeah. It's I think it's just good just to get, you know, a point in general. Obviously, you know, where it will lead, we'll see in the future, right? In the things to come. But regardless, right? It's a good promise of things to come. Getting this point in, obviously, every month we'll be having these, so plenty of opportunities to get points, even if you didn't get them this time around. Even if you didn't get as many this time around, if you are one of those players from number 9.
There's gonna be, I can say this, for each region, there's gonna be, in this current FastPoint season, there's gonna be 3 rated events that will give the FastPoint points. So definitely the monthlies is the one way. There's gonna be, since for EMEA, there's gonna work a bit differently, but I can have a small wing that for APAC, it's gonna be AOTC that will also be as a rated event, and for America, it's gonna be the American Open. So small wink for that, maybe a bit of a leak as well. But yeah, either way, we're actually going to our semi-final. We're going to be watching the semi-final 2, which is going to be the match that we'll be going to be observing within this scene. So it's going to be between the 4 of the players that we did not witness. So the other match is being played at the very same time. So we have Buzzbez, Kiro, ASEAN, and IMOT in this match, as other players are playing out their match on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, we get the second part of the Emot gang. Very curious to see how he will be performing, coming in second place with the quarterfinals. Buzzbez having first in the match that he was in. As we are live right now, Kiro at the moment in the lead, ASEAN second place. but we do see how close they are. Only Emot at the moment not in the pack for the running for that first place. ASEAN really trying to get away from everyone, and so far succeeding quite well indeed. Bossbest going wide, allowing Kira to overtake, sniping away second place from Bossbest, but ASEAN holds on firm, fast to first place, picking up 10 points with a 42-0. I mean, that is pace. That is pace right there.
Yeah, still, like, keep in mind, this is the semifinal, so we do see some of the top players who managed to go through the qualifiers. Let me triple check the full list of how many players did manage to play in the qualifier. So in total, there were, in the qualifier for this event today, there were 71 players who showed up for the qualifiers. It was quite strict because the top 16 were who did manage to make it. For the next month, we will probably increase it to like 32 or 64 to give like more chance for more room for other players to try themselves out. As on this round, we have Imot, the original, actual Imot, having a mistake as soon as they start spectating, allowing ASEAN to go in the top. Actually, Bossbest is a bit of a separated field this round, as ASEAN does take the dub in this round with a 42-1, very solid time. Bossbest in second, Kiro in third, and Imot in fourth.
Yeah, ASEAN looking very comfortable on the track. I mean, we expected being the only player, at least with an online time, having of a 41.9, and with that the fastest time having been set on this track so far, and you can see it in his best time as well, right? A 42.07. He looks very comfortable, getting first place twice in a row already, and you know, like not really being that challenged just yet. See a mistake coming from Kiro. Falling behind because of that, left with 3 players at the front. Bossbest taking the lead at the moment with Emot and ASEAN side by side right behind him. Bit of a downhill error on Bossbest's side, allowing ASEAN and Emot to then shoot forward. It's a great back and forth happening right here, and it's going to come down to this final turn to see who will have the most exit speed and picking up that first place. You see actually Bossbest slowing down a bit, allowing Emot to overtake on that second place, but ASEAN holding on to that 10-pointer first place with a 42.3. Not as fast as time, but enough to pick up another first place. 3 first places in a row. He's going straight for 40 points on our first map.
Yeah, very solid times. Point ones are really solid times overall. Actually, very solid rounds as well. Not that many mistakes as I was expecting. So we're starting to see a quite solid consistency coming out, especially from the top 8 field of the monthly event. So at the moment, currently watching here, all 4 players are literally in the same pace. There's like, it can go either way at the moment. So it all comes down on who gets that small micro optimization. Zama doesn't get the best line, gets tossed out of the loop a bit. Kiro doesn't get that great an oversteer, even allows Imot to overtake. Bossbest trying to gets a nice inside line for MVM, plus that grass wiggle at the end, and managed to snipe Bossbest. ASEAN managed to snipe Bossbest at the very end with only 200ths of a second at the end, getting a better line and securing a full sweep of the first map with 40 points in the end.
Great start for ASEAN there. It's kicking things off, setting up 40 points, ahead by 16. And I mean, that's you know, that's what you're looking for. That's what you're hoping for. Any player would love to have that going into the next couple of tracks. And you know, maybe those won't go as well. But it's great to know you've got that ace up your sleeve, right? Knowing that this is going to be map number 4, and I would expect that we will be getting close to finalists at that point. I don't think we'll have a finalist unless somehow ASEAN just keeps taking these first places over and over and over, which, you know, it might happen. It could happen. But definitely something great for him to look forward to. And it's really up to the other 3 players, Bossbest, Emot, and Kiro, to start making up some distance, start hammering away at that lead that ASEAN has built up. I mean, we do see in terms of points, right, 40 points for ASEAN as expected, as you do come in 4 first places. Bossbest on 24, and Emot and Kiro at the moment tied for 18 points. So definitely still some room for that second place, but it's really gonna either be ASEAN just totally messing everything up on this track on custody, or somehow, you know, it's going to be a fight for second place. Right now, it's looking for a fight for second place, but anything can happen, really.
So some things to note, that ASEAN in from the qualifiers was number 2 seed, BOSBES was number 3 seed. So the second and third seed are already meeting in the one of the semifinals, so definitely starting to place based off according to the placement. So they're definitely the favorites. However, the match is definitely favoring ASEAN quite a bit. So there's despite them being the 2 and 3 seed currently leading the field, it's still really close in the way how they're done. ASEAN had a very solid start on the first map, but a small mistake right now is definitely not giving him the best favor. I'm not getting that sick, as I said, that small trick that you want to do on that part that gives a bit more exit speed at the very end. So it's a very tight fight. It can be anyone's game between Imot and BOSBES. Tries to get a straighter line. It's going to be BOSBES taking with a 0.83. Very solid rounds time as well. And one thing to note that Kiro was in seed number 7 and Imot was seed number 11. So they managed to pull a small upset over Nico, who was seed number 6 in the quarterfinal. So that's why we saw some changes here and there. And I think overall the craziest upset what happened was in match 2 from quarterfinals, where Streak and Parenwecker didn't make it. And despite Stuffs being the lowest seed in that match, he managed to win it.
Oh yeah.
Like the field is so close, so seeding is like just gives like micro changes. As this time it's another solid round that we're looking here.
Definitely solid round, already halfway through. We do see ASEAN this time around having a much better start than he had during the previous attempt. Kito this time turning behind on 4th place, and it's a fight between Emot and ASEAN right now for 1st place, as BOSBES is just slightly a bit too far behind to really make anything happen, but ASEAN holds fast, holds his lead secure, picks up 10 points, and Emot 7, BOSBES 5, Kito 3. Does look like Emot is the one to start to get away from that 3rd, 4th place tide and bringing the fight to BOSBES for 2nd place right now. As ASEAN still in the lead, 14 points, especially with him picking up 1st place like that again. It's very, it was a bit wonky, maybe a bit of extremes, right? You do have those types of players that are all or nothing, right? They'll come in either 1st place or dead last, just because of the way they drive, right? Just because of the way they approach a track, any track, really. And right now it is that type of extremes for ASEAN, though. Right now, fighting with BOSBES for 1st and 2nd place. Curious to see if he'll be able to overtake him right here. Oh, well, there you go. That does it. You hit the wall, it slows you down. Just newsflash, walls, they reduce speed. Unless they're plastic walls, in which case, they're pretty good for speed, but not this one. There's no plastic walls to hit in this one.
So what happened there?
Why is it that I talk about a player that they start crashing?
Yeah, it's like it's a so good old curse. Let's just say like that. It's like in any game. It's such a common pattern that happens. That's one thing to note there, that BOSBES actually really tried to push it. Like I said, like this map is so simplistic in its structure that you just risk for those micro adjustments. Everyone goes for that outside line. Everyone tries to just optimize as much as possible. And due to that, some of those micro mistakes pop out, especially from this drift on the upcoming end part, as they try to like just use all the space they have to just give that minor advantage coming out in the end. So all the players getting this map. So let's see, one player didn't manage to get it immediately. He's just put a bit back of the field because it just started to snowball so much. It's such an insane round so far. ASEAN is dominant, but the real fight is for the 2nd place so far. It looks like it's gonna be BOSBES actually taking it. 0.73. Okay, that's very fast. The loser of that round did a 0.87. So
that's ridiculous.
The loser of that round did a 0.87. So very some solid stuff.
Definitely. It's a great end of the track as well, right? Just so close, but it says a lot in terms of where the pace is going right now as well, right? 40, you got 0.7s, 0.8s, really determining the rankings. I mean, a 0.8, I for my life cannot drive 0.8. All right, there's no way I can do that. And then just to see like that is good enough for 3 points is it's definitely a good example of how skilled these players are. Right now. And I mean, it's to be expected, right? You don't get into the semis for no reason. I mean, you're already trying to fight off, what is it, 70 players off to get into top 16, only to then, have a close match in your quarterfinals. And now, you know, it's only 8 players remaining. We're going through this tournament obviously pretty quickly because it is a relatively, you know, quick tournament. Just what is it, half an hour between each match because of the format and whatnot. But it's definitely interesting to see how these players are stacking up against each other. Still ASEAN at the end of map 2 in the lead with 73 points, and the other 3 players not as close, really, right? BossBest on 49, Imot on 44, Kido on 34. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a bit of an extended 3-way fight with the way ASEAN's been driving.
Well, let's see. ASEAN is definitely looking as the favorite, but the field for that second slot is definitely gonna be very, very spicy. So ASEAN definitely showing he's as the favorite. All of these players are low-key like up-and-comers. Like, if there was like a third league in TMGL, I think this could be like that player field. That's just like one of the goals of this, is trying to just give that opportunity for players just to get that more match experience in, especially between like the bigger events. But yeah, so far a very solid round so far at the start. ASEAN, BossBest and Imot really fighting for that top 3 so far. ASEAN all the time in that minor league, he just all those micro time saves, just they all add up and just put him at the sides, like in the front of the field due to that. BossBest is trying to challenge him, but doesn't work out, and he pushes a bit too hard and pushes outside of the ball. Minor touch from Imot as well. But Kiro is not that far away. Way too big of an oversteer from Imot. A small touch from Imot as well. But it's not enough for Kiro to overtake. Very good time from ASEAN as well. He just plays it in his own level. Like, he's like, okay, this should be easy peasy. Like, no problem. Like,
yeah.
Here.
He's in his own world. He's just driving, just a casual, you know, time attack setting sometimes. Just unbound the respawn key just in case, right? Because he's just cruising. He's just cruising. I mean, this is what I mentioned during the previous map, right? It's very much coming across as a player of extremes, either first places all the way or 4th place, because that's pretty much what he's been doing all match long, right? He had that 4th place because of a mistake on map 2, and other than that, it's been first place, first place, first place, first place, and I think it's just due to the way how he drives, and because he is very consistent throughout the map so far. It's really been paying off for him. BossBest was close to ASEAN for quite a while there, but unfortunately steers a bit too early, hitting the inside of the wall, leaving ASEAN and Imot right now at number 1 and number 2. But Imot quite a ways behind, hitting the same wall as he did during the previous round. So once again, solidifying his number 4 spot unless Kido comes out of nowhere. This time around, though, no touching of any walls anymore for Imot, so second place is his. ASEAN on 93 points with this is ready for finalist mode, and I think from the way he's driving, I mean, sure, he needs second place, but it's going to be either 1st or 4th. That's pretty much it. I don't think he can drive anything else.
Honestly, this was a very important round, because that's the round where ASEAN basically puts himself into finalists now, potentially, if he gets that top 2, and also Imot puts himself in that 2nd position. One thing to note, that Imot is the bottom seed from the qualifier, so he was only seed 11, while everyone else was, like ASEAN was 2nd seed, BossBest was 3rd seed, and Kiro was 7th seed, so him being like the bottom seed, now going into 2nd place so far, is a very nice mentality boost. Of course, it's like the gaps are so small in the peak pace wise, that, you know, it's not that many, but seems like we finally have a solid round on our hands. ASEAN is leading as always from this 4th group of pack of people, but there's a solid fight for 2nd up. To way too big of a sick line from Kiro, uses all of the space given, and still tries to climb up in the 2nd place. He has a better starting approach coming at the end part. BossBest tried to utilize it properly. ASEAN does secure the finalist, and Kiro managed to squeeze himself into that +7 range. And due to that, now starting to reduce the difference with all the players who are in that 2nd to 4th place range. But now ASEAN is now in finalist.
Finalist mode. I mean, with the way he's been driving, these times he's been setting up, I mean, he just drove a .08, right? And it's not his fastest time of the match. Which is ridiculous that he is able to just drive that pace as consistently as he has been doing so far. Definitely right now looking favored to take it all. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be a fight between ASEAN and Ratchet during the finals. I mean, obviously this is going a bit forward on what actually might be going on with what we've been seeing from the players. they are definitely looking like two players to really look out for. Azion at the moment in the lead, trying to secure his finalist spot. Keto attacking, not having had the best match so far, trying to redeem himself through this round at the moment, but losing quite some speed on the uphill right there. Azion, though, just cruising through the map, cutting through it like butter, and it's pretty much been that. Azion, first place or fourth place. That's it. That's all he's been driving, and it's been 1 4th place. And other than that, he's been dominating this match and the very much deserved first place. And you can look at the points from the other players, right? Bossbus on 65, Emod on 64, and Keto on 58. The space between these three players right now in terms of points is definitely not big at all, right? Second place could be any of these players, but first place, it's come and gone, and that one will go to Azion.
Yeah, Azion's format match ended. He's now preparing for the real match. That will be the final, where he'll be awaiting with the player who will be the winner of this match and the 2 winners from the other match. So it's gonna be either Ratchet, Losso, Stuffs, or Elcon from the other semifinal, or the other winner. He probably did gain a lot of confidence, but now the real semifinal starts. So we have only 3 players and 1 slot remaining. So definitely, let's just say, giving that additional point is like going for that fast point to, like, you know, for that standings. There was a person in the chat who I saw that said call the fast point points just fast points, but it's turning into this club as a currency. Like, how many clubs do you have in your club kind of thing, right? So I don't want to...
Yeah.
Let's just say FP points. Let's just say use that. So it's like properly distinguishable. Yeah.
FP points. Yeah, yeah. Sure, it stands for fast. I mean, you also have, like, ATM machine. ATM, like, is already a teller machine. It's not very uncommon to do that, but yeah. I think FP points. I think that's the way forward. I don't think you want to say F points. Nah. Yeah, FP points. I think that'll work. No, not that. All right, Marina, don't say that. No. Get out. No. But it does look like warm-up is over. 3 players remain. Azion in first place, obviously. So it's Bossbus, Emot, and Kiro as we return to the first of our 3 maps in Wisteria. And we'll see which of the 3 will be the one to get the second spot in the finals. Right now, a fight between Kiro and Emot, and Kiro just really not having been driving the best race so far. I don't think he's happy with the performance he has had. Bossbez with a bit of a clip, so it's going to be a fight for first and second between Keto and Emod right now. And Keto holding the lead fast, picking up 10 points of his own with a 42-point race all the time to kick things off on our 4th map. And a great way for him to start coming back into contention for 4th place. I think with that, it's just a few points. Yeah, just 3 points between everyone.
Yeah, small update from the other match. Seems like that at the moment Loso and Ratchet are leading that match, and they're also closing in on finalists. Relatively close so far. Stuffs and Elcon are a bit falling behind the points, but those are the small updates, as Azion is the only player at the moment known who will be playing in the final. But yeah, very solid fight so far. All players are only between 3 points. And the top 2 from this match are even less than 100 of between each other. So it's the real fight starts right here on who only around like 4 to 5 rounds as Kiro. Unfortunate mistake and unfortunate bounce through the checkpoint as well. So he has to do a full standstill respawn as well. Wait, what is Bossbus doing?
I mean, he hit the plastic wall. He just hit the corner of the plastic wall. And because of that, he bounced away from the finish.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Oh, that is so unfortunate. Oh, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, but it's also unfortunate Kiro didn't manage to finish and didn't get those extra 5 points that he really needs, as the field is so tight that based on the total points of this match. There's only 1 slot from these players is left for the final. So it's literally 1v1v1 at the moment on who will be the second player from this match in the final.
Yeah, it's very, very detrimental, I will say. He was working very hard to get back into it, so that DNF just really, really cost him. Right now, though, in first place, so chance of redemption maybe, you know. starting to feel like he's coming into his zone. I almost want to say he's giving the players, you know, a bit of an advantage, but I don't think he should be doing that. As we see everybody going side by side towards the finish line, we see Bospez eventually sniping away that
what a round,
first
actually.
place from Kira, and I mean, a great ending to that round. Look at how close these times are between each other, right? Just 500ths of a second separating everyone, and Bospez and Emot at the moment 1 point separated. I think the way this is going, we're definitely gonna have a double finalist on our hands, and it's gonna be up to Kiro to try and get in between Emot and Bospez from closing out the match.
Yeah, Kiro definitely needs to step up his game, especially that one DNF really cost him those additional 5 points. But yeah, solid rounds from all of the 3 players, so it's gonna make it a bit more, like, way more difficult, as now pace is the main deciding thing for all 3 of them, and solid pace so far. Bospez with a small oversteer at the end, solid line from Imot, but it's not too much. He tried to risk it, he had a very sick grip there, while other Bospez and Kiro tried to give a bit more space, but Kiro will use that additional +10 points, gonna get that snipe on Bospez at the very end. But what they did, that Bospez and Kiro went a bit more to the left to give them more space to aim for the upcoming turn, while Imot went for the full risk inside line, and he even got the insta grip, which is really optimal. But he had too much speed, and he didn't get the best exit line due to that. He had those very solid risks there, as you had to risk in that situation, but sadly it did not pay off. And we're gonna go on looks like, I think that will be the last map where we'll be deciding the winner from this match. So Bospez is only 6 points away, Imot is only 9 points away. Kiro has to do a bit of work. If he hadn't missed those 5 points, he would have been...
It really hurts.
He would have been a round win away on a potentially entering finalist in the upcoming round as well, but he can still have a sick combat. There's a lot of... We're still playing the good old finalist format, so he still has a lot of room to wiggle, but if he will have a bit more additional pressure due to that. However, Bospez needs to get the top 2 finish, Imot needs to win, and Kiro, let's just say, needs to basically deny them is his main thing, and tries to just puts himself closer so the playing field is a bit more equal when coming on the upcoming round.
We'll see. I mean, I'm wondering if the Emot will be able to get that first place right away. I mean, Bospez on our previous route around the track was able to pick up second places relatively, first and second place relatively consistently. I mean, first place going to ASEAN, this being the only track where he was unable to get first places back to back to back to back. So, do think Bospez right now is the favorite of the 3 players, but never say never. And I mean, with this point difference, it can all come down to a good, bad round situation for any of these players right now. As we do get started, a great start from all the players making their way onto the tight pipe or tight rope, if you will. And no one really giving away an inch just yet. I mean, this is a map where players are driving very close to each other, right? Using the space available. I'm very curious to see what it's gonna come down to. Emot at the moment in 3rd place. He really needs that first place to get into finalist mode, as Bospez is in 1st right now. Kito in 2nd. And I think Bospez, as long as he keeps his wheels on the floor on the left, he's gonna do just that. 10 points going his way. Finalist mode number 2. And he has 1 free shot at closing out the match, as Emot does pick up 5 points with that. He just needs to finish one more time to get into finalist mode himself. So it's going to be out of Kiro and Emot to deny Bospez if they want to stay in the tournament in Bospez. 1 free shot.
Yeah,
see if he's
small
able to make it happen.
update from the other match, that Loso will be gonna be the other finalist. So Loso pulling a small upset right there. Despite Ratchet having a very sick quarterfinal, it was not possible, but now let's see. Will it be Bospez or it will be the other will it be either Imot or Kiro who might actually snap themselves into this in the final? Like, they really need to take that win away. However, Bospez is really sending it this round, already more than a full 10th. However, didn't get the best landing. Both of the Imot and Kiro got the trick at the end. He touches on the side. Imot currently is leading the field. He really needs to take the win away to put Kiro in that 2nd place, to deny him the slot from entering the finals himself, and he does put it. Gets himself a more comfortable position, puts himself in finals together with Bospez, and due to that, denying Kiro that win right there puts him a bit more safe space, as it's not triple finalist just yet.
Not just, I mean, this again comes back to that DNF just it just hurts, right? It just hurts. You're 1 point away, but technically, you could have been finalists. Technically, you could have been finalists. It could have been triple finalists, and all coming down to this. But right now, Kiro is in a situation where he has to deny not only Boss but also Emot. And right now, I mean, he is fighting hard with Boss Best. Emot trailing up behind a bit, but Boss Best actually losing some speed on the dirt section right there, picking up that second place. And it's all going to come down to Kiro just having to keep it steady, keep it solid. He's able to do that. We will have a triple finalist situation and one more shot for each of these players to close out the match. Is it going to be enough for Kiro, or is Emot going to be able to overtake in the end? Does look like Kiro holds fast, holds true. We're going to go for triple finalist. This is going to be a sudden death situation for all three players.
Doesn't really have to comment to this. So what a sick comeback from Kiro. So deciding round, we had 3 players from all of the match. ASEAN was chilling and he finished his finalists like a while ago. So now we have a 3-way finalist. The winner does manage to secure a slot into the final with Loso and the second place from the other match. So it's a very tight, and the decider map will be Costa. So at the moment Bosbez is leading, has this minor up advantage. B2 avoids the oversteer from the Amosa. Does have way more exit speed with that early entry on the dirt scene. Now it all comes down on how much XP do they get at the very end. Very similar speed. Diamond has a tiny bit more speed. Bosbez does get way too early air brake, doesn't get the additional bounce that gives additional speed, but so far he's still leading the field. Imot is very close, gets a small oversteer at the very end, gets a little bit more extra speed out of it. However, everyone is very close. Kiro has a lot more extra speed comparing to everyone else. It looks like Bosbez will still be securing it at the end with a 0.77 at the end. And Bosbez will be the second player from this match. Despite Kiro having a very strong fight from the very bottom, climbed himself back to the finals, but Bosbez was still the player at the top that managed to secure the win in the end. Bit unfortunate from Kiro's side, but GG's to Imos and Kiro. They were the bottom seeds in this match, but still managed to take the dubs in the end. So yeah, at the moment, from the current result informations that I have, is that, of course, as I mentioned, Loso will be one of the players who will be witnessing now in the final. The other player was Ratchet, and Elcon was in 3rd place, and Stuffs was 4th. So sadly, those were the players who did not manage to sadly secure the finalist in the very end. It was quite close. Elcon was managed to reach the finalists, but now we're soon going to be going into the finals. So we'll have Loso, Ratchet, Bosbez, and ASEAN. We actually saw all of the 4 players so far, and who do you think would be the potentially favorite as we're going to go to a final? One thing to note, that this final will be played till only 1 winner. So the second and third, 4th place will be determined based on how many points they have or how early did the player manage to reach the finalist. If the finalist was reached in the same round, then the player who had the fastest round gets the tiebreaker advantage in that case. So it's basically if you had a solid match overall till that point, you get an advantage. Also, to remove this anticlimaticity, we will be playing for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So that will be the system used. We'll be playing for 140 points. But we have our 4 players now, and who do you think will be the player who come out on top?
I mean, going from what we've seen from all players so far, I would say, I mean, maybe because we just saw him just cruise and dominate, but at the same time putting down amazing times. I would say ASEAN is the one that I would favor right now. From all 4 players, because it's also ridiculous to think that from the way Bosbez, Loso, and Ratchet have been playing, they've been playing amazing as well. But I feel like ASEAN kind of has been in a league of his own, just looking so comfortable in the way he's driving, and I think that's been very beneficial, and I think that's going to benefit him a lot when it comes to the finals. Though, I mean, I can't really count out Ratchet either, also doing a fantastic job. Loso likewise, right, picking up 1st place over Ratchet in the semifinals. So clearly, he's starting to get in the zone as well, right? Maybe a bit of a rough start on the quarterfinals, but clearly picking up the pace right now. I think the underdog of it all probably will be Bosbez, I would say. I think Bosbez would be my dark horse in this one. I'd be excited to see him win it all, right? After a very rough fight against ASEAN, who has to take on again. So I'm curious to see if he has the confidence to really pick up the pace and give ASEAN a fight. but it's gonna be a tough one.
We'll see how it will. We'll see how it will end up. But before that, we'll have a actually small look back on how the tournament started today. So we started with the Time Attack qualifier, where we had over 70 players who played in the qualifiers. Then we cut down to the top 16. So we had Ratchet, ASEAN, Bosbez, Elkan, Streak, Nico, Kiro, Loso, Heave, Auris, Aimot, Paranveker, Stuff, Slaudis, Broly, and Louis were the players who managed to, let's just say, reach in that top 16. From all of the players who were from Europe, there were some players from North Africa as well, who were very, very close as well, but sadly did not make it. Mainly Benoxy, who was really close on reaching that top 16 as well. One of the first upsets then happened in the bracket stage afterwards, that some of the top seeds, like Strick, who was top 5 in seeding, was eliminated in the first quarterfinals, did not manage to make it in the end. And we had our quarterfinals, semifinals, and now it is time for the finals. So for the finals, we will have to remind, we are playing till only one winner, 140 points. The second and third, fourth gets decided based on how many points and how early they reached in the finalist. So those will be the things to look out for. So it looks like we're already in the warm-up of the finals. So who are your small predictions? Who do you think? Who might be the players who might come out on top from all of these 4 players? You did mention ASEAN, but will it really be ASEAN? Like, Russia has been playing pretty good. Loso has a massive step up, especially from the previous match results. So we'll see how. Who do you think? I'm personally thinking that ASEAN might take it in the end, with Ratchet taking second, Loso being in third, and Bosbez most likely fourth. So for me, Bosbez at the moment is the underdog in this match.
Yeah, I would agree with you on Bosbez. I mean, while I do think ASEAN will take it, I wouldn't be surprised if Ratchet would be the one to, like, just really feel the pressure, and perhaps because of that, come to in his own, because the pace is there, right, and respond to it in a positive way for him. But I think, from those top 3, right, Ratchet, ASEAN, Loso, I think either of those 3 are today looking like they could be picking up that first place. I mean, again, Bosbez, I really hope so, but I don't think he's been that much in his element, though. Right now, as we do get kicking things off on the finals, we do see Bosbez taking the lead. Great start for him to kick things off, picking up early 10 points if he can hold on to this, as ASEAN right now is trailing him hard. We have Emot Jr., the other Emot from the Emot cinematic universe, actually Ratchet, in 4th place right now, fighting with Loso, but we can see the players getting closer and closer to each other as we get to that final third turn. Curious to see how this will turn out in the end. It's going to be a bit of a photo finish for 2nd place as Bosbez does pick up first. Emot Jr., aka Ratchet, on 2nd. Just 0.003 of a second between him and Loso, aka Final Goodbye, and ASEAN in 4th place. ASEAN is a player of extremes.
What a banger round, honestly.
It's sick, yeah, it's just sick. Because it was very much looking like, clear first place, and then everybody started fighting back. Everybody started fighting that space, that speed in each of these turns to really start clawing their way back in, and a great ending to our first round.
0.45 was the last place time in the previous round. So definitely a very solid round from all of the players. A bit small, unfortunate Bosbez line there with him at the bottom. He managed to correct himself, so he lost only 0.4, but 0.1 wasn't even enough to, let's just say, challenge the top players. So at the moment the field is being split between ASEAN and Ratchet. Well, Loso is a bit behind, and then Bosbez at the bottom so far, so real focus is on the top. ASEAN is leading the field. He managed to pop out those 0.8 so far, 0.2, which is a massive improvement over previous round. Secures those another plus 10 pointers. Despite ASEAN being last in the previous round, getting that plus 2 point pace increase now puts him in the potentially top contenders, as we are playing only till one winner. So every single point will matter, especially for the tiebreakers, if you doesn't even manage to close out the finalists. So those are really important parts which will make the entirety of the match important when it ends.
Exactly. It's it means, you know, like even if somebody were to be like for some reason fully in first place, right, no chance of catching up to him, theoretically speaking, right, it still matters, right? It still matters in terms of ranking, still matters in terms of the FP points that you will be getting at the end of the raid. So it does, you know, make sure, I mean, players, because of that, will be incentivized to keep pushing, keep trying, besides, you know, wanting to win, also just having the best result that they possibly could have. Right now, looking at the match itself, players are not as close as they were during the first round. Right now, Ratchet in the lead, Loso in second, Asion trailing behind with Bospus right behind him. Ooh, with a crash into the finish, almost allowing Bospus to overtake him. But he does hold on to third place, picking up 5 points, but it is Ratchet picking up 10 and solidifying his first place in the rankings right now with 24.
Yeah, it wasn't the fastest round. Well, I mean, the pace-wise, the 0.3 was a very solid, but everyone else was a whole 0.3 slower. So it wasn't that most optimal run through the map as we saw, especially the first few rounds, but we're starting to see a bit of like gaps being forming, as now Ratchet's starting to tiny bit run away, or showing a bit more dominant form so far, especially on this map, trying to put the most use of it. It's quite solid rounds are happening so far, as Giannis has a better approach, but a very solid top 3 so far. Loso is not too far behind, but the 0.2 is quite a lot in this match so far. Solid top 2, minor bounce there from Bospez, as he puts him a small disadvantage due to that. So only a pole 0.1 behind the field. A solid fight there at the moment between Asion and Ratchet at the top. Asion has a beautiful end at the end and puts himself in that small overtake at the end, and that small overtake was indeed needed, as the gap was only less than 100 of a second. Those additional plus 10 points are definitely needed to turn down Ratchet's dominance so far.
Definitely. I mean, 31 points still puts him at the top, but oh so close. I mean, Asion on 28 really fighting him for that first place. Right now, though, it's a fight for third place between Bospez and Loso right now, with Loso being the one at the bottom. But still, I mean, first map ending up on, you know, players with 30 points, I think is a nice divide, right? A nice even division between the players, I would say, where you know, usually if a player runs away with it, players will be happy if they have, you know, 10-something points. There are situations where a player might even have, you know, less than 10 points because they had a really, really bad map initially. But these players so far have been driving quite neck and neck, and really showing why they were able to make it into the finals with the pace that they've been showing off, and how even a tenth of a second, a hundredth of a second can mean a difference between first and second place. Honestly, so far a great match, and I mean 140 points. We're bound to see plenty of great rounds coming up with our map number 2 coming up right now.
Yeah, some things to note that from the qualification seeding side. So Ratchet was the seed number 1, Asion was seed number 2, Bospez was seed number 3. However, Loso was only seed number 8, who managed to put himself into the final. Actually, that upset over Elcon was, I would say, the most deciding part in the semi-final, where Elcon was very close on making it, but Loso was the player who did come out on top in that match. He was actually the person who managed to win that match, actually, so definitely a bit of more mental advantage. However, Ratchet, the person who was second in that semi-final, at the moment is leading the field. Solid round so far. Very good exit speed there from Loso so far. Maybe get a potential overtake on Bospez, and Ratchet will take away to 0.6. So far, very solid rounds. Only 0.85 the so-called loser time, which is still a pretty solid time overall, but it was definitely not enough to do a dent in that round specifically.
No, definitely, and I mean it's you know, that's pretty much the pace where we're at right now. Final 4 players. It's make or break, and you can tell how it's no longer, you know, gloves are off. Players are just going at it as fast as they are, and you know, there's definitely some more risking happening here and there as well, just to nab a few hundredths of a second, because that really does matter. You can see right here, amazing round right now with every player very close to to each other. Ratchet at the moment in the lead. Bospez on second place. Azion 3. Loso on 4, but that could change just as easily as we get to the final jump. We see Loso not having as much speed as he had in the previous one, unable to gonna snipe someone, but Bospez and Azion so close to each other. It's the exact same times. Bospez hitting that checkpoint just a bit earlier, allowing him to close it out with 7 points going his way, and jumping into third. What a what a photo finish.
Yeah, and one thing to note that using this specific game modes, there is a tiebreaker. So in case there's a tied time, the player who was ahead in the previous checkpoint gets the tiebreaker advantage. So that's one thing to clarify in case there is no alphabet advantage or something like that. It's actually based on who was the player who was the fastest. So we have actually 2 mistakes in this round, something that we have not seen so far actually. And it's both Bospez and Loso who are, let's just say, split the field a bit. So Azion and Ratchet are currently fighting for those 10 pointers, as Bospez and Loso are currently fighting for those 5. But looks like to look at the top, it looks like Azion might be the person who has catch up and gets a lot of like solid low 0.7s, high 0.6s, very solid times being done as the reading time so far, which has been really really kind of crazy. Despite the map being very simplistic in its nature, like the solid time that you would do probably with this normal round would be like a 46 flat. The fact that they get those micro optimizations done throughout the round, like getting that outside line nicely, reducing that oversteer, like having those small things, like they add up to like lower the time down every single time, and especially the drift part, where you just try to reduce the angle, reduce the braking time just enough to just squeeze through that gap or that turn part, just to have as much momentum possible, and just getting that everything perfectly that you really need to get to just get that things done to get some dent in the round.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you can see it throughout this round, everybody doing a fantastic job, but Azion just a bit tighter, right? Just a bit more clean in the driving, and look at the time differences, right? I mean, it's definitely a bit more of an outlier to be behind 0.2 of a second, if you will, right? And I mean, I'm starting to get used to just being, talking about hundreds of a seconds between these players. What a great round to close it out with as well. And I mean, as you mentioned, right, these reducing these oversteers, using as much space as possible, really hitting the apex of these corners as optimally as they could during rounds is a sight and joy to behold. Really, I mean, with the points that we have, we're bound to go back to Casti as well. So I'm looking forward to our second drive-through. Looking at points-wise right now, we do see Ratchet in the lead with 65 points. Azion on 60, and these 2 players at the moment clearly look to be fighting for first place as Bospez and Final Goodbye at 41 and 34 points respectively. So it's definitely a tight fight for first place, but it's going to be a fight between Ratchet and Azion at the moment. So 140 points, there's still some space, but you can really see these 2 players start to get away from everyone else.
Yeah, and that's going to be the important part, especially when we're going to be closing in on the ending parts of the match, especially when when there's going to be a player who will be finishing off finalists, like that, depending on how many points you have at that moment when the match is concluded, will depend on if you get second, or if you get third, or if you get fourth. And of course, just reaching into finals will give that advantage, and of course, reaching it faster than others will give that advantage. So there's still a lot of room to work with, and despite being back down, like trying to at least snipe that person who was either from 4th to 3rd is still gonna be very important till the end of the game.
Definitely, and we'll see. Right now, though, Bospez, the one I could say he's probably want to hold on to that 3rd place and maybe start to sneak into 2nd place, though. It's going to be a tough one regardless, as everybody is showing amazing pace right now. Bospez in the lead. See Ratchet in 2nd. Azion making the mistake early on, hitting the inside of the wall of the corner, so he is in 3rd place even. As Loso actually making a bigger mistake. Not quite sure what happened there. But the fight between Ratchet and Bospez right now is heating up hard, but it does look like Ratchet... Oh, what happened?
Ratchet had to respawn.
He had to respawn. Oh, wait, did he hit the wall
as well? Everyone respawned.
Oh. Boss best slow-mo finish. Well, all right. I mean, part of casting, I guess this is, like a bit of look behind the curtain. You try to predict what's going to happen based on what has happened and how the players are driving, right? So that making, whenever something like this happens, it catches you off guard because you're about to say something because you're expecting something to happen, and then it totally doesn't, right? It's one thing if somebody is first place and they end up in second. That's one thing. But to just have players respawn and you're like, wait, what? It just... I mean, personally, it always catches me off guard, so that's why things sometimes sound a bit...
Also, one thing to note, that we have a solid fight at the top. Bospus is really stepping up his... Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
You see, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Thank you for proving my point.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, one thing that happened is that Azion crashed 2 times in a row. And usually when you crash, you have this mental block, especially when you have a higher tier of a match being played, when there's not other players that not making that many mistakes. And when you make 2 mistakes in a row while still being at the top of the field, yes, ASEAN does have that at the moment, that 20-point lead so far above 3rd place. That kind of gives him that breathing room. At the same time, he's losing a bit of points here and there to the winner, and it can potentially like go in this, like, it's hard, like this mental pressure then being that you have to like reset, have a full match resets in the head and get this clean consistency getting back, because you really need it at this level, at this stage, to especially do some damage. As currently Loso with Ratchet are leading the field. So if you don't know, Final Goodbye is the player called Loso, who was a bit more veteran player also in the Trackmania 2 era. Currently he's doing a sick job while leading the field with Ratchet in 2nd, ASEAN in 3rd, in Bospus in 4th, solidified 1, 2, 3, 4 in this round. Nothing too special, however, time from the Loso was pretty solid, despite the fastest time from the match was by Ratchet with a 0.1. Loso's time was pretty solid, that now equalized the field with him and Bospus.
Equalized 3rd place. I mean, it's really been a fight for that at the bottom. I mean, ASEAN also starting to get a bit away from Ratchet, but still, in range definitely to start making a comeback of his own, but not looking as solid as he was during the semifinals. Perhaps the pressure getting a little bit to him and not allowing him to drive the times that he was during the previous match. Regardless, everybody is doing a fantastic job, and you can see it right here. Everybody so close together. I mean, Bospez lagging behind by 0.2 of a second, but still in position to overtake until a clip onto that block right there. So it's a fight for first between ASEAN and Ratchet, and Ratchet with an earlier bounce, more speed, overtakes him right on that risky fin, and 10 points going to Ratchet instead of ASEAN.
Okay.
Yeah, that was close. Bospez, please finish. Please. I mean, the slow-mo there as well, right? You got the slow-mo block, so it's not like he just dropped down instantly. You gotta wait.
Yeah, that was really close there. But he still managed to pull it through. But yes, at the moment the field is starting to become a bit more interesting. I mean, Ratchet is still leading with 99 points. He still needs that 41 points to enter finalists himself. However, ASEAN is still quite close so far. ASEAN is with 85, Loso is with 59, and Bospez is with 57. There is a noticeable gap, so I feel like it's kind of in the two-way fight. So at the moment it's the fight between Ratchet and ASEAN for that win, and between Loso and Bospez for that 3rd. So of course there still can be a potential comeback happening if they start just taking dubs like every single time, just denying the leader at a time to like get that sick comeback from either Loso or Bospez side. But it is still possible, and especially that will be really needed because to like reduce that gap. Because to keep in mind, you're playing till only one winner, so whenever the winner finishes the match, the points or the status that the other players had will kind of be locking as their positions. So it'll be used as the tiebreakers. If they have been finalists, it's better of course than... So who basically has the more points or who is in finals will get the tiebreaker advantage, let's just say like that. The earlier you reach finalist, you also have a tiebreaker advantage. So those are one things to note on based on how players will be like seeded for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. As Bospez with a small early mistake as we go on Euphoria.
Going on to Euphoria, I mean, we're guaranteed to go on to Caste, I believe, as our 5th map, if my memory serves me correct. As right now, I mean, technically, Ratchet could come in first place 4 times in a row, but beyond 139, barely not enough for finalists, but I don't think that's going to happen, as right now Azion in the lead with Loso trailing a bit behind. Ratchet also just lurking in the back, hoping for a mistake. We'll see if that is the case, if that will happen, as at the moment, Azion looks secure in his first place. Nice turn through the dirt and final goodbye. I mean, a little bit of an awkward crash into the finish, but still goes over the line, so holds on to second place. We see Ratchet on third and Bossbet on fourth, so definitely positive for Azion in his fight for first place, and Bossbest starting to see Loso run away from him right now in terms of points. Still 6 points, still room to make up.
Yeah, it seems like it's gonna be a fight between Germany and France, I feel like, for that position. It's always them two who are involved at the top. It's always them. So actually,
always them, always.
It's
rowdy
always
kids in the class.
Yeah, very two unfortunate mistakes coming from this. Azion barely makes the jump. It's actually a very difficult respawn to do properly if you don't manage to make the jump. So he managed to squeeze himself barely on the platform to give a potential of the points. But meanwhile, Loso is actually currently leading the field at the moment. Bossbest is trying to catch up. Ratchet, unfortunate release at the very end, but Ratchet is really trying to get those, he's doing small dirt wiggles on those micro dirt parts to even gain a bit more speed to catch up on Loso, but it's not gonna be enough, and Loso still not the fastest time. Let's just say like that. Let's be real, we have seen like 0.3s, 0.1s, 0.2s, 0.4s usually as the winning times. This is only the slowest time, also from the total time for world record, but it was enough. The other mistakes were still a bit too much, and I would say relatively free 10-pointers for Loso in the end.
Yeah, definitely not having to risk that much. And yeah, usually that time, I mean, from what the players have been driving, would be a solid 4th place, but you have these rounds, right? They happen. And I mean, Euphoria is there's been a track where we have seen some slight errors, steering a bit too early, causing the players to lose quite a bit of time this time around. Players somewhat closer to each other, though there is clearly a fight happening between Azion and Bossbest for first, and Loso and Ratchet at the moment for 3rd place. 2 packs happening as right now Bossbest really holding on to that first place, so Azion so close, just hoping for a slight little mistake, or perhaps just a better line on the dirt, but it does look like Bossbest will hold firm, will hold on. No changes in the placements throughout the latter half of Euphoria. So 10 points for Bossbest, definitely necessary for him to start getting close to final goodbye, while at the same time we see Ratchet and Azion, 9 points between the 2 players, though Ratchet still leading at the second half of Euphoria.
Yeah, even if Loso makes the seeding upset as well. So Ratchet is the player who was leading in terms of qualifications. Azion was 2nd, Bossbest was 3rd, but Loso was a bit of the low-key underdog coming into this match with the seed number 8. But still holding up quite strongly, especially against Bossbest, who was a bit close, who was the 3rd seed in this match. But yeah, very solid 1-2-3 so far. Loso is a bit behind, over 0.3 on the leading players. Bossbest with a small oversteer at the end, small bounce from Azion's side puts him out of the insta-grip parts. He also has to readjust the slide a bit, puts himself a bit back from the top 2. Bossbest is leading the field on a very needed 10 points. And Ratchet touches, allows Loso to overtake. Azion even touches the side, but doesn't really matter at the end. And Bossbest gets the fastest time so far of the match with the 0.13 on the match. That gets very needed 5 points, with the only 1 point difference between him and Loso so far, while entering to the next map.
The next map, and I mean, this is our first chance at seeing a finalist come in terms of points. I mean, technically, I expect our first finalist to come in. I mean, Ratchet right now with 121 points. Over 4 rounds, I think it's definitely not, it wouldn't be unexpected for him to pick up at least 19 points. So I think right now that is the player to watch in terms of winning the finals overall, right? It's going to be one winner, so I think for him, he's probably feeling good as warming up for the 5th Trackmania with ASEAN right now in 108. The gap is a bit bigger. It's going to need a couple of first places to catch up to Ratchet in this. At the same time, though, that fight for third place stays ever close. Just 1 point between Final Goodbye, aka Loso, and Bosbez, 86 and 85 points. I mean, obviously they could be technically overtake either of the two players fighting for first place, but the way the race has been going, I think it'd be, a bit unfair to then claim like, oh yeah, they're gonna do it, because it's, you do see this level of consistency coming through out through all these players, and while they are very consistent, there's just a few more mistakes happening right now on Loso and Bosbez's side that are, keeping them from getting these potential first places.
So it's a very simplistic map, so all of the micro optimization is gonna be really needed. As actually Ratchet, having the early mistake, barely survives the pipe as well. But yeah, that doesn't put him in that good position, as mistakes only can come up from intense amount of risking on this map. But so far, nothing too crazy except from Ratchet so far. ASEAN and Loso really fighting for those top positions. Bosp is going for that flat landing. It's not the most optimal, but it's also one of the things that gives a bit of differences between the so far. But seems like so far a very solidified 1, 2, 3. Loso has a tiny bit more speed, but it's not about a very sick time by ASEAN. 0.67. That's a very solid time, especially for let's just say this kind of a map, and gives a bit, reduces now the points gap, especially with that Ratchet's mistake. Now it's only 6 points difference.
Yeah, very beneficial for ASEAN right there. If he's able to replicate another first place, he could put himself in position to overtake Ratchet right here. But this time around, no mistake from Ratchet, as he is leading the pack, looking to retake that lead. Getting very close to the checkpoint right there, steering a bit to the side. You can see Bosbez and Loso trying to attack. Unfortunately, Bosbez hitting the wall right there, not really paying off. Ratchet still in first place, ASEAN at the moment in third. Quite a ways behind, so it's going to be a fight. Oh, as ASEAN hits the wall, a fight between Ratchet and Final Goodbye for first place, and it does look like Ratchet is going to be the one to pick up 10 points of his own and set himself up on 134, just needing a top 2 on the next round to get into finalist mode.
Yeah, another 0.6 though was a winning time. However, Ratchet is now only 6 points away. He just needs to take another top 2 in a match and he will put himself into finalists. What's the crazy part now is that those small mistakes from Bosbez now starting to reduce also the points gap, so Bosbez now needs to deny and get those 10 pointers to potentially overtake Loso for that third place, as Ratchet is out of this race potentially. Let's multi and ASEAN as well. So both bottom players are now fighting out for the big points, not only to just put themselves in a better position, but also maybe to potentially close out the round, as the current points leaders are out of this round in the bottom positions. Of both players are literally equal in that checkpoint right there. So if there's a tiebreaker, it all comes down on this checkpoint right there. So looks like Loso has a small advantage, and he will be taking the win in this one. Of course, still a really good time. Let's just say that. But it wasn't to the level as the previous rounds. But those mistakes from Ratchet and ASEAN now became so important, especially for Ratchet, because this denied him on entering the finalists, as he's only 1 point away. And Loso taking the win over Bosbez now put himself that safety net that was really needed in case there's a tiebreaker happening at the very end.
Definitely, I mean, 10 points. I mean, yeah, that's 2 rounds, right? You get 2 rounds to, 1 round to mess around in. Mess around. I heard what I said there. But yeah, definitely making use of those mistakes from Ratchet and ASEAN right there to its full potential. Definitely good play, and making sure you stay consistent despite what happens around you is essential. This time around, though, everybody side by side, neck and neck, and it's going to come down to this final drift. Who can pick up the most speed out of this jump? Looks like it's going to be ASEAN towards the end, with Bosbez on second, Ratchet on third, Goodbye on fourth. I mean, for Ratchet, this is guaranteed finalist mode, but look at these times as well, right? 0.6s, 0.7s. reign the top 4 right here. Emot Jr., aka Ratchet, on finalist mode at the end of map number 5. But I mean, what a round! They just keep closing these maps out with amazing rounds that are just so close.
Was the last place.
I just, I mean, at the same time, I'm surprised, but I shouldn't be, because this is the pace that we should expect, right? This is what, you know, should happen if you are playing in the finals, right? You shouldn't be, you know, getting away with, you know, just getting ahead by, you know, 0.2, 0.3. That if that happens, it's because a mistake happened. But in general, these are the rounds that you can expect. This is the pace that these players are able to drive, and I mean, my God. Yeah. It's so hard to call who is going to be first when players are so close to each other.
So one thing to note, that we're playing only till one winner. If Ratchet wins this, the positions on how many the points how other players have are locked in their positions. So that would mean Bosbus would be 4th, Loso would be 3rd, Asian would be 2nd. So it all depends on other players to just deny and also get those additional points to put themselves either in 3rd, 2nd or 4th positions accordingly. So it's literally a bit of a 1v3 at the moment, just trying to deny that leading position, because the match will end as soon as the player who has the finalist will win the match. So the fight still happens between the 3rd, 4th in this behind the scenes, but also it depends on whenever the first place managed to take the dub in the round.
Gonna come down to this. We are live, map number 4 on Wisteria. It's Ratchet's game to win right now. ASEAN needs top 3 to get finalists, but I mean, the main goal, I'd say, for all of these players is to stop Ratchet from getting into first place. And for Ratchet himself, obviously, he wants to get into first place. ASEAN making quite a few mistakes, allowing him to solidify his 4th spot for this time around. So it's going to be up to Bospez and Loso to stop Ratchet from finishing things out, getting into the final turn. Bospez going quite wide on this turn. Emot, aka Ratchet, does close it out on his first try into finalist. I mean, it comes, it goes. As mentioned, we're only having one winner, so this pretty much solidifies our rankings with final goodbye, aka Loso, picking up 113 points. Bospez not enough points to overtake him, so it's going to be 1st Ratchet, 2nd ASEAN, 3rd Loso, aka final goodbye, and 4th going to Bospez. It came and went just as quick as that, but that's sometimes how it goes. I mean, Ratchet just instantly driving the pace he needed to win the.
It was a
the
sick
finals,
round actually, up to
yeah.
that point. It's just it's you know, he actually, what was happened was Bospez had a small bounce at the end that made him lose the grip at the end, despite him leading. He had an unfortunate transition there, while Ratchet had a reduced braking time that gave him just grip early enough to get that inside line and snipe him at the end. And that was the thing that was missing from Bosbez's side, that kind of forced him out of the line, and due to that allowed Ratchet to take the win. But due to that, now we have seen all of the tournaments. So we started with the qualification standings, where we had the time attack qualifiers. So from that we had 70 players, we got our 16, then we had our bracket stage, we had our quarterfinals, semifinals, down to the 4 players right now. And now if you look at the total standings, if I can find it.
It's somewhere.
It's somewhere, yeah. 3 seconds. And
drum roll.
There it is. Okay, yeah, find it. So now we have our total standings as well. And seems like was very, very close on some of the players, but yeah, Imot was the missing player. It will update soon as on the top 8. So we started it off. So we had Laudis, Broly, Streak, Louis, Nico, Auris, Parenbecker, and Heave, who didn't manage to go through the who managed to went through the qualifiers, didn't manage to go through the first round. Then Elkan, Staff, Skiro, Imot, who went out in the semifinals, and now in the finals we have Bosbez from Team Wombo and England in 4th place, also from Slovakia in 3rd, ASEAN in 2nd, and Ratchet from Team Shift and Germany winning the event. An additional symbolic 10 USD as well, but the main thing is the FastPoint points that will give a quite nice addition from the future events, especially some of the stuff that's really coming at the end of the year as well. But overall, what were your thoughts on the event, and where do you expect this player to Ratchet actually take it? Despite him looking very shaky on the semifinals and ASEAN having a very sick semifinal run, sadly ASEAN it wasn't enough for him to take it in the end.
No, I'd say to a certain extent, it seems like ASEAN, like the focus that he had during the semifinals, perhaps drained him a little bit too much for the finals. Obviously, being a longer match in and of itself, but it's perhaps because of the players that he was up against that the pace suffered a little bit. But regardless, the pace from all the players, I think you could see throughout the tournament, right? Just kept going higher and higher and higher, allowing us to have an amazing finals. And I feel like as well the way we started out at 8 or 9 or wherever you may be. I'm saying 8 because it's 8 over here when we started.
It was 9
and
for
just
me.
2.5 hours later. Yeah, it was 9 for you. But 2.5 hours later, we just whittled down everyone and got some quick fire. I think that's the best way I could describe it. Some quick fire Trackmania action. And I mean, there was pretty much no breaks, right? There was no moment of like, okay, and now we're going in. All right, we're ready for some Trackmania. Hopefully, you're ready for some fast cars, and it's maybe a little bit of an endurance for those players who barely get in, right? Getting those second places, not really getting some time to breathe, and but at the same time, who knows? Maybe that was what caused ASEAN not, keep the pace that he showed during the semifinals because he had that long of a break. Between matches himself. Who knows? But
maybe he was so dominant in the semifinal that started to like nerf him due to that.
He started sleeping a little bit,
Yeah.
like,
okay,
what do I do? Relaxing.
So due to that, it ends for EMEA this month. Next week we will have Americas, so if you're from North or South America, it will be your time to shine. The format will be exactly the same maps. It will be starting around this time next week for Americas, so you can register within the events tab in game. fpmonthly, it's like North America, South America's abbreviation. You can register for that. You can gain some additional points as a bit of first pure prize money. Maybe for prize money it's not that big, but I feel like for esports earnings, it's like you get fight with that leaderboard kind of thing. At least personally, how I saw it more. As a thing, it's like, okay, so we're finally starting to climb the esports earning ladder in a sense. But yeah, it's a bit like the whole idea is to like give a nice introduction and give more opportunities to players to play in the cup mode system or like a competitive environment. Give it that more opportunity for like tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 players to get that like, more experience and more match environment. As it's usually cup mode, despite being like the meta of competitive, it's not really that accessible in a daily basis, or like let's just say a casual basis in a sense. So at least with this, it's like possible to give at least some more opportunity to try out. And due to that, we're actually going to be slowly wrapping up for the end. Thank you everyone who watched it. For the next month, we will have new maps coming in as well. There's going to be bunch of events, so definitely follow on this channel and the follow FastPoint Twitter for the direct updates on what events can be happening and what some of the results, and other sites where to watch, what to follow, where to register, because a lot of people were confused where to register for this. And if you want to try out casting or submit your own maps, it's also possible if you just hit me up in DMs or find the appropriate media as well. But yeah, either way, I think thank you Boney for being here with the cast as well. Massive thanks as well to this. But yeah, that's gonna be it for us. Next week we're gonna have the North and South America monthly event, so definitely stay tuned for that. That's gonna be it for us. Thank you all for watching once again. See you later. Bye bye.
See you later, guys. Bye bye.